Good morning, this is News. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto has explained why he wants the National Government Constituency Development Fund protected and made a constitutional fund. President Ruto said his proposal to Parliament last week, asking the two houses to make the NGCDF a constitutional institution, is meant to secure development of education in the country. He said NGCDF has facilitated the construction of many schools and offered bursaries for tens of thousands of pupils and students across the country. And the head of state now says that his administration is committed to strengthening the opposition to enhance transparency and accountability in the country. He, however, asked the opposition to execute their mandate in a patriotic and peaceful manner. The head of state said the government is committed in reducing public borrowing, adding that the government was implementing policies and programs that will boost the economy and increase revenue.
Tunangangana kungangana. Hata wale wa upinzani mimi naona pia wanangangana. Wanapanga maandamano, wanajaribu kutukosoa, wanajaribu kutukumbusha hiyo mambo yao waendelee. The opposition to be empowered so that they can ensure that public resources are used properly, are used appropriately, so that we can run an accountable administration, because an accountable administration is the one that will bring transformation to the Republic of Kenya.
He said that this is the surest way to collect much more revenues to finance development rather than resort to debt. Now, Azimio Umoja Raila Odinga has opposed President William Ruto's proposal to amend the constitution in order to create the office of opposition leader. Raila said in a statement that the proposal by Ruto's administration to amend the constitution undoubtedly seeks to reintroduce the same matters that the Building Bridges initiative had suggested for many months. Raila claimed that despite his opposition to the BBI, Ruto was now appropriating Kenyans' views and speaking of the proposals as if they were his own. According to Raila, while the proposals are similar to those in the BBI, they cannot be presented in the same way or processed through the National Assembly. At the same time, he raised questions about how President Ruto would handle the same challenges he had raised against the BBI. The court, according to Raila, ruled that a sitting president cannot propose a constitutional amendment. Now, James Orengo is accusing President William Ruto of trying to sneak in constitutional amendments using Parliament to serve his selfish interest. Orengo and legislators Otiende Amolo Rarieda and Samuel Atandi of Lego Songa said though the calls for constitutional amendments were welcome, the matter must be subjected to the referendum as is dictated by the current constitution, adding that Parliament was not the best avenue for such changes.
Constitution is a major document. You must involve the people first. That is why you saw during the PBI process, there was a team that went all over the country. All over the country. Even if Parliament can change it, and Parliament is the wrong body to change a constitution. Because over the years, we had a very good constitution from Lancaster, but it was messed up by Parliament. Our constitution is something that must go to the people.
He said that history has it that the same avenue was used to change the constitution before, but it was messed up. The Siaya governor at the same time challenged President Ruto to tell Kenyans why a sudden change of heart about constitutional changes, while he was opposed to the Building Bridges initiative that had all the changes that he was now championing for. And the National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah says the proposal to amend the constitution and create the office of the official opposition is meant to strengthen democracy and is not a sweet deal or a handshake. Ichung'wah said the move will ensure government is properly held into account. He further reiterated that members of Parliament will carefully consider the proposals, initiate public participation and do the right thing to ensure Kenyans are well served by the Kenya Kwanza government.
It is a misconception by those who think and imagine that you are giving them a sweet deal. You are not in the business of giving anybody any sweet deal. Therefore, let us not get confused like those who are getting confused. That His Excellency has an olive branch, he has a sweet deal, he's probably thinking about a handshake. Mambo ya handshake, Your Excellency, wewe mwenyewe ni wewe ulituambia. Hiyo mambo ndio ilituletea mambo mbaya.
And it seems troubles in Azimio keep increasing. This after a section of Jubilee delegates hailing from Nairobi raised issues of the status of their relationship with Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. The delegates are pushing for the party to exit the Raila Odinga-led coalition within the next 14 days. This is News. I'm Dennis Asada. Good morning.
The Spice Newswire is brought to you by Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. Go ahead and get yours today. It's your time.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
Okay, good morning and welcome to Monday. It's Jamhuri Day, Independence. How about that? And we will probably not see a lot of traffic on the streets this morning, but we're going to keep an eye out and see what's going on. We're also getting into the Christmas season, so quite a lot of folks are making that journey out to wherever it is they're going. So we want to watch out and see what happens this Monday concerning traffic on our streets. Let us know what's happening in your neck of the woods. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Okay, so this is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. What is this girl talking about? She wants to play a song. This one called Ednah.
Just relax.
She's all over screaming in my ear, saying, "Leave that machine alone, Ndu." Wachaima. Kabisa. Kila kitu iko hapo. Si ndio? Yeah. Mamba maridadi sana. Maridadi sana. Happy Madaraka Day. Tumeita Madaraka, si ndio?
Si ndio ni hiyo?
Hapana.
Independence.
Ni Jamhuri.
Because I saw Madaraka here.
How you doing, Ndu?
I'm fine, thank you. Good
morning. Happy Jamhuri Day.
To you.
Katika Jamhuri ya Kenya. Yeah? And all the Kenyans.
Well done, yes.
Well done. Very good. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Siti, how are you?
Well, thank you.
You're fine?
I'm very well, thank you.
Very nice, very nice.
And how are you, Eric?
Nice. I'm very fine. Very nice. Nakula two snacks.
Nakula snacks.
Nakula snacks. Very nice, very nice. You know what that is?
No.
There's a guy who's producing content on social media, particularly TikTok, talking about this thing we call what? A hustler fund. So, umeenda umechukua hustler fund, umechukua 1,000. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Sasa, I'll send you that clip.
Please do.
Not one, but several. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Very nice.
Today is the first day of Christmas.
Is that one?
I made a promise.
Ednah, now put that other song now on that video.
Ednah is not even knowing what we're talking about.
Put the first day of
Ednah is
Christmas.
still on Mimi ni mwenyewe Kenya daima. Umoja wetu tu du du.
Wait.
On the first...
The Kenya Daima, is that not the other song that was sung by that other fellow?
Which other guy?
Eric Wainaina.
Yes, Eric. Yes.
That was Mkenya Daima.
Yes.
This one now is Nduz.
Ndu Daima.
Don't worry. You all just daima.
Be happy.
Yeah.
No worry. Now be happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Now be happy. Oh.
For everything gonna be all right, eh?
Everything will be good. Oh. Haya. Weekend yako ilikuwa namna gani? City?
Mine? Okay, let's start with you. Ladies first.
I can't remember. Let's start with you.
What can you remember that you need to start with me? My weekend was actually...
We left you on Friday, Abby.
Yeah, we all left here on Friday, if I recall correctly. Yes, my weekend was good. My Saturday was good. My Sunday was good. Actually, Saturday was particularly good. Because it was out of the... I'm talking under the table. It was a little out of the norm.
Hey, okay.
You know this thing I keep telling you guys I participate in called Man Enough? Huh? One of the participants, a member of the groups that I normally intermingle with, the son had an 18th birthday. So invited a couple of wazees, come and chit-chat with the young gentleman, so that the young gentleman can have an idea of what this being grown up is all about.
Very good.
Yes, very nice.
Very nice.
So I actually went to a part of Kenya, Nairobi. Well, yes, I mean, I've never been there.
To Nairobi?
No, this part that I went to.
Part of Kenya, Nairobi.
Yes, there's
a part of Kenya called Nairobi.
Yes, Nairobi,
yeah.
yes. There's a part of it.
A part of this Nairobi, Sasa?
Yes, now, I'm being granular here. There's a part of Nairobi called Karen. Then there's a part of Karen called Bagadi Ridge. I've never been there in my life. This is the first time. So I went early so that I could actually get to understand the place. Lo and behold, there's a hotel called Hemingway's. Okay? Then there's another one called Hamosa. So
right across each other.
Yes, so I decided, now that I'm here, went into Hamosa.
Kakula Samosa.
We did a rounds, Dini. Hey man, they're places. Very nice. Took something like half an hour, 45 minutes. Very gracious people chatted with me, told me what's going on, what's going down. Then I decided to walk now to the end of that road, then walk to the other end of the road, just so that I can get a feel of it. Okay? What I understood was that part of Kenya, Nairobi, Karen, most of those properties were at some point, I think, farms. Because you look at a compound and realize this is not an acre, this is 5 acres, and the other one is 10 acres.
10 acres and so on.
And so on and so forth. So this was the world opening up to me. Then I went to the other place I told called Hemingway's. Very courteous. I went to the gate and asked them, do you allow people to walk in here? Told me yes. Please, come in.
By all means.
Yes. All I'm saying is, sometimes...
Walk about.
Now I understand why Eric drives about. This thing of going to another country, this country, there's enough to see here. Believe me. If you just take your time and move out of your little comfort zone and just venture out a little bit, you'll be amazed at what you see.
On Friday, so let me now tell you then my story. On Friday, I spent the afternoon at another property now being managed by Hemingways, still in Karen, on the side of Hardy, next to Giraffe Center. You see the Giraffe Center?
Yes, I'm seeing it in my head.
So when you pass Giraffe Center, goes a bit down.
Do you get to Cooperative before?
Just the Giraffe Center.
Giraffe Center, hapo
Giraffe Center, on the road of Giraffe Center. The Cooperative is, say, past Hardy Police Station.
Yes,
you go up.
Yes.
So before you get to Hardy Shopping Center, you turn left, go into Giraffe Center.
I am with you.
Okay. Hapo sasa, beyond Giraffe Center, there is a property there that is owned by a fashion designer called Anna Trubinsky. Anna Trubinsky is a renowned fashion designer. Uko yake moja. When you went to Hemingways, did you go into the tuck shop? And says, okay, next time you go there,
didn't go inside.
Go to the tuck shop, and you'll find a scarf that's by Anna Trubinsky. It'll just be going for just a scarf, just for around 230,000 shillings, and so on and so forth. Okay. So Anna Trubinsky owns this particular piece of property, and she and her late husband had lived there for a while. Her late husband was called Tonya Trubinsky, who was also an artist, a painter. Does those, those things where a guy starts with a blank canvas and then they throw paint at it.
And that's it.
And then they come with a brush and they do this thing and the other. Like this. And then they do this, and then you can start seeing a face. And this thing looks like a form of a human being somewhere in the face from far, and then and that's it. It's left like that. So that's the kind of work that Tonya Trubinsky used to do. They had 2 children, Tonya and Anna. The son grew up watching his parents, artists, and the son now is a sculptor. So he makes these metal sculptures. Okay? The daughter is also very artistic. She makes ceramic stuff. The late Tonya Trubinsky died in mysterious circumstances. He was shot a couple of years back. So this home now is Anna Trubinsky's home. Then she decided to turn it into a place where it can be a hotel, and it's called Eden. And it's a lovely place. And you walk in there and you can see the art of Anna Trubinsky as a designer. She's designed the place, designed the various houses and the various lofts that they have. And then the artworks by Tonya Trubinsky are adorning everywhere. And then the sculptures by the son and the ceramics by the daughter. And so it's basically a walking into a museum of art.
Maybe I can take you down memory lane. Once upon a time, there was an architectural firm called Trubinsky & Gal. I get the impression he was the grandfather of these young.
He was related to.
Yes. So it's a family that seems to be inclined and endowed with those artistic, should we say, gifts.
Yes. I'll encourage you actually. Next time you're thinking of going to Karen, go to Eden. Have lunch.
What I'm going to do
and enjoy.
Is do what you do. I'm going to do this holiday season.
Just drive around.
I'm going to drive around. Yeah.
Chapa malaps. Chapa malaps. Ndu. Si tutaenda na nyuki?
Tunde.
Sawa. Tell us about COVID.
Let me do that. 653 million is what the world is looking at in terms of numbers. Let's look closely, though, at what's going on in Kenya. 10 people have tested positive from a sample size of 171 in the last 24 hours. 8 are male, 2 are female. Gives Kenya a positivity rate from that of well under 5%. Excuse me. So Kenya's numbers, not really a shake-up of the mind to anybody right now. Still looking at, well, it looks like it's going to be here for some time. So someone says, I have malaria. Looks like it's what COVID is going to be for a lot of folks. Beijing is still the center of mind for a lot of people. Folks are talking about the collapse of economic Beijing. Well, okay, I don't think that it's gotten quite to that. But Reuters reports this morning, Beijing swings from anger over zero COVID to coping with infections. The Financial Times is asking if Beijing will recover from the last couple of weeks. But okay, from this story...
why shouldn't it recover?
Recover from what? Protest or lockdown?
I mean, why shouldn't it recover? What's the biggie?
I'm asking, what's the hit? That's what I'm asking.
You know this thing Eric talks about?
I'm asking what's
about
the
this
hit?
Western media approach to things that isn't Western. Finding the darkest, most negative perspective that you can present.
Look, in order for you to recover from something, you must have been hit by something.
In the throes of it.
And that's what I'm asking. What is the hit? What has happened? It is their reaction to all of this and how they have been hit and now becomes China's problem. But okay.
When the entire world was shutting down just 2 years ago, it was the in thing. Now that your country has opened up and another country is shutting down, so you want to look at that other country as, economic hit and it will not recover, and my God. Okay?
China's COVID-19 gloom deepened Sunday with many shops and other businesses closed, and an expert warned of many thousands of new coronavirus cases as anger over China's previous COVID policies gave way to worry about coping with the infection. China dropped most of its strict COVID curbs Wednesday after the protests. Cities that were already battling with their most severe outbreaks like Beijing saw a sharp decrease in economic activity after rules such as regular testing were scrapped. Now, it's coming out that evidence suggests that many businesses have been forced to close as infected workers quarantine at home, while many other people are deciding not to go out because of the high risk of infection. A prominent Chinese epidemiologist told state media that the Omicron strain of the virus prevalent in China was highly transmissible, and one infected person could spread it to as many as 18 others. According to Zhang, he says that hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people are infected in several major cities with regular COVID testing, as Chinese residents scrapped and reserved only for groups such as health workers. Official tallies for new cases have plunged. Health authorities reported 1661 new infections Saturday, down from 42. But they're attributing this number to the point that fewer people are being tested, not necessarily that few people are being infected. Evidence suggested that there are many more cases in the city of nearly 22 million people, where everyone seems to know someone who has caught COVID. So they're saying it's a higher risk. Everybody's coming back to work, but the burden of the disease is still very heavy. And the question is, which way now?
Okay. It's 23 minutes after 6, and people are online, awake and tuned in on this lovely Jamhuri Day. Happy Jamhuri wherever you are. Let us know where you're tuned in from, and we'll be doing the usual shout-outs after we take a look at the weather forecasts. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Get ready to fall in love with the new Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro, featuring intelligent 360 audio, which makes the sound feel more realistic than ever before. Not only that, they can feature enhanced head tracking, making every movement stay in sync, so you get an immersive experience. Designed to fit comfortably, the Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro will also help you stay connected by automatically popping up on your Samsung Galaxy devices, and with just a tap, you can connect. As simple as that. Available in all select Samsung stores countrywide.
It's that time of year again when our voices get to count. It's time for the Pulse Music Video Awards, the great edition to be held in Nairobi on the 21st of December. And we need to hear you louder than ever before. The names are out, and it's all up to you, the fans, to vote for the top artist of the year, best music video, song genres, music producers, video vixens, and more in the Kenyan music industry. You can visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/PMVA to vote just once, but still show some love for your favorites through text by sending the word PMVA followed by your nominee code to 22845 as many times as possible. Voting closes on 15th December, so you better start voting. Imeletwa kwako na Kenya Kane, the iconic Kenyan spirit. Pulse Music Video Awards, the only way to
Cloudy
get
conditions,
alive.
a bit of a drizzle in parts of Nairobi at 16, highs of 24. 24. And we'll see highs of 25 in Nakuru, where it's currently clear at 13. It's 10 and clear in Nyeri, highs of 23. And it'll go to highs of 24 in a clear Eldoret, currently at 12. Rain showers at 25 in Mombasa, highs of 32. And we'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Malindi at 28. It's 19 and mostly cloudy in Kisumu, highs of 28, and it'll go to highs of 27 in a mostly cloudy Kakamega at 15. It's 18 and clear in Kampala, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Dar es Salaam at 24. It's mostly cloudy at 16 in Johannesburg with highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 32 in Lagos, where it's hazy at 26. Mostly cloudy conditions at 22 in Kinshasa, highs of 30, and looking out into Beijing Monday afternoon, it's sunny at 3, highs of 5 and lows of -6. It's 2 degrees and cloudy. There's a snowstorm in Paris, highs of 2 and lows of -3. And we're looking at cloudy conditions at 0 in London, highs of 2 and lows of -2. 1 degree and cloudy in New York Sunday night. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 4 and lows of 1.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
See,
Good
tell
morning,
us
good
who's online.
morning, Good morning. Okay, who? TJ Apache is tuned in. And okay, first of all, Andrew Franklin says, Happy Independence Day, listening from Lavington. Well, good morning to you. Ambuluka. Okay. TJ says, good morning from Goa. Let's Ambuluka with SpiceFM. Happy Jamhuri Day. One Kanyalaka.
Kanyakla.
Thank you very much. Greeting us from Goa. Vincent Chumba says, good morning, live from Kampala. Ndroko dancing to the patriotic song while seated. Ha! Very, very nice. Indeed, very nice.
Very
Nice. TJ Apache is still celebrating and says, celebrating my country for being one of the first countries that its citizens speak very fluent Queen's English. Just listen to Ndu City and Eric and you'll see what I'm talking about. Keep it up. Okay.
Which queen?
Which queen? There's no queen, man. And I'm not your citizen, man. But anyway, we get you, Apache. Good morning, good morning. John Tay says good morning. Tuned in from Kino. Happy Jamhuri Day. Here with you guys from County 039. That's Tietie. You know which is County 39?
Nope.
Do you know County 39?
Yeah.
Which one?
It's that one.
Sawamas.
I figured.
You always do so well. Matthias Owalo says good morning. He's tuned in from the Czech Republic and he says Baridi Tupu.
Why?
Hey, I can just feel it. As you just say Czech Republic. At this time of the year, I can see the icicles forming when you breathe. Colin Skipsat is tuned in and says, Happy Jamhuri. Good to see you guys. Good to see you too. John Amasongola is tuned in and says, Happy Jamhuri Day. Happy Jamhuri Day to you too. Joseph is tuned in. 102.5. Uko Kisumu Nauko. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Jamhuri Day. Mushiri Ombonya Onyango says he's tuning from Rarieda Sub-County and says, Happy Jamhuri Day. Happy Jamhuri Day. James is tuned in as well from Mombasa. Amio Vin says he's tuned in. Beatrice Ngenya is tuning from Naivasha. And Amos Freeman says he's tuning from Kimilili. Charles Muturi is tuning from Nyeri. And Robert is tuned in as well. Simon Wapala is tuned in. Andrew is already bringing conspiracy at 6:29 on a Monday morning, no less.
Which Andrew?
When the sun is not even out. Andrew Franklin. Should I tell you what he has said? Based on your story of Eden, Andrew says, with due respect, there is much more to Eden than meets the eye. And then he says, white mischief much? He's asking the question. We can see how you have woken up this morning.
Did you go to the inquest, Andrew?
Was there one? Public one. Nivo too. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Karibuni sana. Tena sana.
Yes, City. You have the proverb?
Remember when we were in Guinea.
When were we there?
Last week. I did mention that it wasn't Papua New Guinea, and neither was it Guinea-Bissau, neither was it Equatorial Guinea. Well, this week we are in Equatorial Guinea.
Okay.
Yes. Now, Equatorial Guinea is a very unique country. That country was dominated by 3 colonialists, not 1, 3. The Spaniards, the Portuguese, the French. So, to date, as we speak, those 3 languages, or rather the languages that emanated from those 3 countries, are still spoken in that particular country.
Those are the languages.
Yep, but what is of interest though?
Spanish, Portuguese, and?
Yes, those are foreign languages, but local languages, you'll find regional languages, they're called. There is a community called the Fang, F-A-N-G, as in the fang of a lion, the fang of a leopard. They comprise what? 5.7% of the country? The language is quite dominant. Now, this will interest you. Apart from the language called the Bube, okay, and Abonese, they also speak Igbo.
They do. Our people spread.
Do they speak Igbo like Igbo, or do they speak Igbo or different Igbo?
Igbo is Igbo now.
Yeah?
It's Igbo, Baba.
It might be a dialect of, but all na Igbo.
Yes.
So they speak some Igbo.
They do.
But not the Igbo of your Igbo.
I'm sure that as it moved, you'll find that some words, as language does, because it's fluid, I'm sure that as some words would have changed.
The similarities are more than the differences.
But the language still, I think, retains its integrity.
Capital is called Malabo. Right. Proverb. I'll tell you about the president later on, but let's talk about the proverb. No one holds a cow by its tail while another is milking it.
While another cow?
No. The cow is the same one. Cow is same.
Same.
Another cow holding the other one.
Another cow holding its tail.
Holding another.
Okay, sorry. Let's start again.
You proverb writing natives.
Yes.
Can we begin again?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Once upon a time, nobody holds a cow by its horn.
Oh,
While
Horn.
another.
You said tail.
Of course I did. While another is milking it.
There's live editing of the
I'm
proverb.
telling you.
I did.
The system is open.
I
This
did.
miss is open.
I did. Yes. If they can be white,
Read it a third time.
Why
No,
can't why
no
can't
one
they
holds
proverb this time?
by its
See
ears.
one body part.
Okay. Nobody holds the cow by its horn while another is milking it.
While another cow is
When
milking.
another cow is milking the same cow of the horn. Or the nobody.
You know, at this rate, you guys, I am actually going to read another proverb to give as a response to this comments that you guys are making.
No, we are asking questions.
Nobody questions the proverb
No.
as it's being edited.
All right. The only thing I can say to you is by way of a proverb. 2 men in a burning house must not argue.
About what?
Okay. We shall be looking at the newspaper headlines shortly. Just reminding you about the Standard Insider, www.standardnewspaper. No, it's called what? Standardmedia.co.ke.
Standardnewspaper.com. Good.
Standardmedia.co.ke. Get in there, subscribe to the Standard Insider, get all the premium content delivered to you in the way that you like it delivered, and you'll pay 190 shillings per month, and thereby saving 100 bob every month. Okay, it's a Standard Insider. Shall you just tell us about what on the front pages, and then we take a break, take a look at traffic?
Sure, let's do that. Making of a dynasty, rather. Making of the Odinga dynasty is what's on the front page of the Standard. And guess what? From next year, in the next 6 months, schools will be learning not COVID.
Hey.
Ooh.
Yeesh.
Coding. According to the president, technology, all learners will be taught this subject in school. All schools, all learners will be taught what? Coding.
Okay.
You just get ready for that. Bleak future for junior secondary school investors. And then sugar. Jitters over plans to bail out Miller. That would be an interesting story to look at. Trouble in Jubilee in face of mass defections. That's another political story that's making the headlines today. Taking a look at The Nation. Help me find and bury Kimathi before I die. This struck me when I saw the headline. Dedan Kimathi's remains have never been released by the British. For Mukami, the widow of freedom fighter Dedan Kimathi, it has been 65 years of waiting and hoping that former colonial power Britain will release her husband's remains. It remains her dying wish. We'll look at that story later. And as we're doling out goodies come Christmas, expect a bigger hustler fund. Very nice. As Ruto doles out goodies. You'll find out more about that later. There's the Ken Marua Road, and the 3.2 billion shillings is a payout for landowners along the development, and it's looking at IEBC as the place where careers go to meet the untimely death. That's another story. On the back page, senators seek an audit of power generation deals yet again, and there's a fight between lawyers and the watchdog over a rate card, and that has gone to the appellate court. A lot to look at this morning. Yes.
City, do you have the Star?
Of course I have the Star. What do you mean? Of course I have the Star. Any other question?
Do you have the Business Daily?
Yes, I have the
Okay,
Business
start
Daily.
with the Star.
All right. Any other question?
What's the headline in the Star?
Opposition office not for you. Ruto troops chide Raila.
Oh. Okay.
All right.
So they'll occupy it.
I do not. Now, this one might be of interest. At the top of that page, this feeding crisis. Inmates stare at freedom as courts directed to decongest prisons. Remember that prayer we had?
Courts directed.
I will read it. It's on page 6 of the Star.
I'd like to hear who's directing the courts.
Yes.
Okay, let's take a break. Let's look at traffic and then we'll look at those newspaper headlines in detail. Good morning. Happy Jamhuri Day.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Comfort and joy, comfort and joy.
Tis the season is back, so why not turn on the spirit of the season with an unforgettable experience on the 9th, 10th, and 11th of December at the Junction Mall rooftop. Savor the unmistakable with Tanqueray and a host of your other favorite brands from EABL. Expect performances from your favorites like Tetu Shani, Atemio Yungu, Eric Wainaina, Chris Adwar, and many more. Advanced tickets are available at Ticketsasa for only 1,700 shillings. Gates open at 5:30 p.m. on Friday and at noon on Saturday and Sunday. Plus, you can also enjoy amazing discounts at the Tusker Grounds or at kethebar.com on your EABL favorite brands. Turn on the spirit of the season and have a very Kenyan Christmas.
Excessive alcohol consumption is harmful.
We're going to look at free and clear streets for most parts of the day, that's for sure. We'll see some outbound traffic. Folks are starting to make that exodus out of Nairobi, and we're going to see that for the next couple of days or so. We'll also see in the next couple of weeks as the KCSE exams come to a close, we'll see more travel. But for now, it doesn't look like we're going to see much. Even the map is telling me, sorry, nothing to see here. Keep it moving. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, just in case something does go out of whack, let us know. Please be careful. We know that the streets are empty and also has a propensity for you to go faster. Be careful, please, and arrive safe.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, let me tell you very fast. Here it is. I want to look at the story of Dedan Kimathi's wife.
Okay.
And she is saying, look, my dying wish would be that my husband's remains come back to the country 65 years after his execution. She's seated on her wheelchair, heavily dressed and tended by her granddaughters at her home in Komarok. Mukami Kimathi, the widow to Kenya's fiercest freedom fighter, Dedan Kimathi, is tired. If her heavy sighs, slow nods and mechanical movements of her fingers are anything to go by, she's a worried woman. She frets about her death, which she says is imminent, and the only thing that will lighten the heavy burden weighing down on her frail shoulders must be done by the British government. This is through the release of her husband's remains by the former colonial power, which not only captured her husband in 1956 at the Kaigini at the Aberdares Ranges, but also executed him in 1957 in Committee Prison. Slowly she opens her eyes. She looks steely ahead, then sighs. For her, it has been 65 years of a long wait. She gasps for air, draws her eyes back to focus on the people in the sitting room at her Komarok house, and only then does she so silently utter words powerfully. I do not want to die. I do not want to die before being shown the exact place where my husband was buried. I want to see the remains of my Kimathi before I go. I do not have long to live, and this matter has been a thorn in my flesh. Her voice breaks. She swallows a gulp of air, then closes her eyes and goes silent. The last information she and her family ever heard of her husband from both the Kenyan and British government was that he was buried somewhere in Committee Maximum Security Prison, where he was taken after his arrest. Occasionally, her son, Simon Kimathi, swats a fly or two that rest on his forehead, adjusts her sweater, then leans in closer to her to listen to what his mother says, and echoes the same. He too is not amused by the way previous administrations led by the late President Daniel Arap Moi and the former President Uhuru Kenyatta dealt with his mother, the wife of a national hero, concerning her pleas on her father's remains. Many Mau Mau veterans, like my late father, have never found justice. It is only during President Mwai Kibaki's administration that we got some help. He removed the tag of Mau Mau as terrorists and called them heroes of the country. He revealed that during the Kibaki era, the government catered to his mother's needs, including paying her medical bills arising from various ailments due to her old age. So sickly did she get that they had to permanently move her from her home in Kinangop to settle her at the warmer house in Komarok, where she's currently living. The road to justice for the Kimathi family has been long and arduous. The Kimathi family has employed several antics to draw the attention of authorities to their plight, including chaining the freedom fighters' grandsons to the Dedan Kimathi monument on Kimathi Street. The family's quest started in the 80s when they kept asking the state to help them locate the patriarch's final place. So serious was their appeal that it received global attention, seeing several states, including Argentina, offer to come and scan every bit of committee to help them identify where Kimathi was buried. It continues to be a wish, and they're asking and saying, so now she's saying, Mukami is saying, I'm going to die soon. I would like you to show us where he's buried. And then I can die in peace.
You see, what she was told by both governments is that he was buried somewhere in committee. This has been the story.
Yes.
He was buried somewhere in committee. The questions would be, how much effort has actually been put by the Kenyan government to establishing the exact location?
Right.
Because it's always like, this constantly moving target and a story that just keeps coming and going. Kimathi died, all right, he was buried, all right, so just let's forget and move on. Seems to be the policy of government. So we have a Kimathi monument, we have all these things, a statue in the name of Kimathi, we've named roads after Kimathi. Mukami Kimathi is usually invited to these state functions. But the effort of actually going and saying, all right, can we put together a team and give them all the necessary resources and say, this is committee. Talk to historians, talk to everybody, find out where.
If they, I hear you, Eric, and I think that if they really wanted to, if a little bit more effort was put into finding exactly where he is, they could find him.
Or at least demonstrate that you've tried and then come to a point and say, okay, we don't know exactly where.
And because of then, environmental and biological degradation, we cannot find the exact remains, but we would know that because that degradation leaves an imprint on the environment. It doesn't matter how long, it leaves an imprint. And from the science that we've used, we can find that it was somewhere here. You see, you've made an effort, you've shown that even if the search has yielded nothing tangible, that you can say it could have been here. And that can be done. Modern science allows you to do that. And if you employ it, you can find it. Effort. It's all about effort.
There's been a discomfort that the governments of this country have had, beginning with Jomo Kenyatta, with regards to people who were directly involved in the fight for independence and the fight, those who were called the Mau Mau. There is a reluctance. There has been a distinct, my opinion, of course, distinct reluctance by successive governments to actually give these people their proper place in the history of this country.
Yeah.
What rewards are we talking about? A few people who are appointed to some positions, but we have funds for all sorts of things. All sorts of things. Are you telling me that more thought could not have been given, something lasting, to ensure that these people's efforts were actually recognized? It's like the effort seems to be to forget these people as quickly as one possibly can.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
as opposed to remembering them. And also remember that when we talk about the history of this country, at independence, the people who essentially ascended to positions of authority were people who had previously been known as home guards.
Indeed.
Okay. Now, they were the antithesis to the people who were known as the Mau Mau. Now, peace was made. Right, home guards took their position. Should not those who were in the Mau Mau also have been given positions?
Yep.
Yes, they should have.
Look, there's a neighboring country called Uganda, okay? A lot of effort has been made to acknowledge and to ensure that people who are involved in what they refer to as their revolution, that they are remembered and that their efforts are not forgotten. One may argue, as always, that perhaps more could be done, but something visible has been done.
You're right.
My view. My view. Yes.
Tell us about that story that you were reading there. That was funny.
Which one? The inmates. That's the one you really want to hear.
That's the one.
That's the one you want to hear, right? Okay, let us read the story.
Freedom is here.
Concern over populated prisons as courts call for decongestion.
Oh, call for. Okay.
Prison population stood at 58,887 against a capacity of 34,000 as of December the 4th. Authorities are concerned with the increasing population of inmates in prison facilities in the country. Most of them have been found to be remand inmates, which now pose a challenge in providing basic needs. As at December 5th, that is this year, 2022, the national prison population stood at 58,887 against a prison capacity of 34,000. The Chief Registrar of the Judiciary, Anna Madi, said that an internal memo to all heads of court stations that the attention had been drawn to the unprecedented high numbers of inmates in the prison facilities. About 41% of this population is constituted of remand inmates, she said in a memo dated December 8th. Amadi said the high numbers pose challenges to the prison service, including compromising the provision of basic needs to the inmates. She directed that the courts get a solution to the issue. Recognizing the central role courts play in the administration of justice, we are under duty to deploy immediate and medium-term measures to ameliorate the situation of our prison facilities. Ameliorate indeed. The registrar suggested the courts employ the use of non-custodial sentences.
Suggested?
Yes.
Will the courts ever hear this?
I really wonder. I really wonder.
I mean, how often do we talk about, and even judicial officers who've even come here and they said, maybe non-custodial sentences would be the way to go.
Okay.
That's why we're looking at, this STAJ, the social transformation through access to justice by the Chief Justice, and saying, let's look at how to not even congest the court system by having all these alternative dispute resolution mechanisms in place and the alternative justice system. But when somebody gets into that system, they are immediately thrown into the system. You go to court, you just say, how do you plead? Not guilty, bas, remand.
That's it.
Kwisha. come out. If you want to come out, you pay a bond and bail of worth 100,000 shillings. Where are you going to get that?
If you told those people to pay a bond of 2,000 shillings, they would have a problem. So
it's...
You do wonder, don't you?
You do wonder if that's actually really thought out or if any attention is being paid to it at all. Because you have to think from the arresting officer to the clerk to then even the magistrate who is making this question. And then we come and complain later about the system being overclogged, underserviced, and that there is a backlog. But then here you are, and you can see, because I understand that the law is the law, and there's justice that must be served.
Yeah.
But then how many times have we been told, even here, that rulings will be made based on the prevailing situation? Look at the situation that this individual is standing before you in the docks. You're asking this person, okay, not guilty. If you don't have 100,000 shillings, then all right, thank you, and enjoy scholarship at our... Okay, look at the prevailing situation. This person is a number one petty offender, probably a first-time offender. Thirdly, the situation in which they find themselves economically, it will not bring 100,000 shillings.
Yeah.
So is there an alternate way that you can deal with this thing? And unfortunately, I find that it's very brick and mortar when it comes to this. Oh, because the law said, come on. It is clear
judicial
that this
officers
cannot
have
happen.
leeway.
They have leeway. They have leeway to be able to deal with these things. And why can't we? How many times have we been told that the majority of people who are sitting in remand today, the reason why is because they cannot make bond or bail?
Yeah.
I mean, can we think a little
bit? It's like a cash
wiggle?
cow.
Yeah.
This whole thing is like a cash cow. This is the one place. Prison is the one place where you cannot today say how many people are in remand and prison today.
I don't know.
You actually can't.
I don't know.
Keep moving, remand, you've gone in.
And by the way, 60%, as we said, of what we refer to as our inmates are in prison, and the term is under 3 years.
And the people who actually should be inside serving the scholarship properly are here holding microphones and talking some nonsense that we should not be able to deal with.
Yeah. And laughing about it.
I mean,
ungenitetea bwana nisiende ndani.
Yes.
Huh?
Let me tell you the story of a Belgian man called Maurice Marie. Maurice Marie died in Nairobi on December 16th, 2005, and he left a will detailing how his wealth should be distributed. He listed his two daughters, Marie Elizabeth and Isabel Marie Todore, his sons, Juliam Marie and Harold Marie, and the widow, Nyeri, and her niece, Wairimo, as his family. Okay? 2 sons, 2 daughters, and widow and widow's niece.
Yes, okay.
Court records show the deceased had other properties in Switzerland, Belgium, and France. He, however, did not list these in his will. The court allowed the executors, Elizabeth and Guy, to manage the foreign properties. In the will, dated September 13, 2005, he had bequeathed Nyeri 2 properties at Tigoni, Kiambu County. Tigoni. However, for 17 years, Nyeri has not shown any interest in inheriting this wealth. The executors told the court that she had refused to sign the documents that would enable them to transfer the properties to her. Family Court Judge Maureen Odero heard that Marie, in his will, directed that Nyeri was to get a 3rd property in Tigoni, but on condition that she continued to live there. However, Nyeri no longer lives on this property, and her whereabouts remain unknown. Marie also left 84 million shillings in cash for Nyeri and her niece, Wairimo. However, according to court records, the two cannot be traced. Elizabeth and Spencer told the court that they have for years tried to trace the two, but in vain. They said advertisements in the newspapers had yielded nothing. The executors lamented that it was impossible to conclude the succession as the two were unavailable to sign the papers. Despite the succession case filed in 2005, lying in court for years, they have never replied to it. The applicants urged the judge to find Nyeri and Wairimo's actions amounted to disinterest in the assets that they had been bequeathed. In their prayers, the executors asked the court to allow the assets to be distributed to the remaining beneficiaries. Because,
this lady is not, she's clearly not interested, wherever she is.
Yeah, well, no.
That is what is being reported by the executors.
Yeah, but man, no.
If all this time she's not made an effort, made an attempt to talk to us about this, then, can somebody else benefit from this money?
They could, but can you not find out why she's not interested? Or that's not the purview?
So, there's a man called Dr. Gibson Kamau Kuria. You know him?
The lawyer.
Senior
Yes,
counsel.
senior counsel.
Senior counsel Dr. Gibson Kamau Kuria initially represented Nyeri and Wairimu in this succession case. However, he later withdrew from the case, saying that he was unable to trace his clients in order to take instructions from them. Following the senior lawyer's withdrawal, the court ordered Elizabeth and Spencer to place an advertisement in any newspaper inviting the two to show up. The executors placed an advert in the Daily Nation on 22nd of March this year. No response. The judge now says following the advertisement, Nyeri and Wairimu's relatives must have either come across it and would have informed her that she needed to move and inherit her husband's wealth. I do believe that a relative of the respondents who saw the advert would have alerted her on the same. The respondents have been incommunicado since 2006. That is 16 years ago. They have made no attempt to reach out to the executors in order to settle the estate of the deceased, observed Justice Odero. She noted that Nyeri had been gifted a property which she ought to have maintained and lived in. However, she failed to comply. She does not even live in that property. Sasa kama wewe ni judge, what do you do?
You have leeway. Release the police to look for this person.
Or now saying this thing of even court saying that you must place an advert in the newspaper.
How many people?
How many of the people that will read the paper?
No.
Should have said put it on radio.
Look.
Or done a tripartite announcement.
No, thank you. Yeah. People listen to radio more.
Yeah.
And are you telling me that the official parties in this country whose mandate is not only to look after the security of the people but to look for them cannot find it? Are you telling me this person cannot actually be found? Nah. We find people who have even left the country.
But they can be found.
Yeah, we find them. Even dead people we find. So this story of this person not having been found.
But also, where did she go to?
Yeah. Where could she have gone to?
So her husband has died. And she knows she's living in this house. Why did she move out of the house and where did she go to?
And where's her niece?
And the niece as well. I mean, where is the niece?
Does this story strike you as though this is a conclusion or is this the beginning?
Aye.
There's a lot to this. There's a lot more to this. Even if you don't want the properties, you say you don't want. But you've disappeared. The other person who was bequeathed disappeared. Not there. So, isn't this something?
Your lawyer comes to court and says, you know what, I can't find them.
Or did somebody disappear them?
You have to ask that question. That's what I'm saying. Should there not be an all-out attempt to try and find out where these people went to?
Sorry, when did the investigations begin to find out where they were?
They were ordered by the court to.
They were ordered by the court. When did they? What was the year that the husband passed?
Since 2005.
He passed in 2005.
They went to court in 2006 to begin the succession case.
And they were there. That's why they had a lawyer.
They went to court. They themselves went to court.
No. The executors went to court. I mean, it was just to
start the process, which they have to do anyway.
Yep.
And so from that time, they were not available.
From that moment, they were not available. So Gibson Kamau Kuria, who was representing them, says, guys, I can't find my client. I actually don't know. So the executor comes with the documents. I need them to sign these documents so that I can release the properties to them. I'm managing the others. Find them. I can't find them.
It's a whole chunk of time.
There's 84 million shillings sitting in a bank account.
Yeah. We're talking about 17 years that she's not shown up, that she's not said a thing, at least not to the people who need to execute on this will.
No.
She's not. She may be talking to somebody, but she's not talking to the executor.
People don't just disappear. Okay? It's really that simple. Where is this lady and where is her niece?
You have to ask, is she?
Yes. There are two people, her and her niece. Where
are they?
Yes.
Are they still?
This isn't a cut and dried story.
No, it isn't.
This is a cut.
It'd be interesting to hear what the court says, though, after there's been no response.
Well, in order to bring finality to this matter, I find that the estate of the deceased ought to be distributed. The executors cannot be held to ransom by the respondents who are apparently no interest in claiming or receiving their share.
Voila.
That's the conclusion that the judge came to.
Yep. That property in Tigoni should be sold, and Marie had ordered it in his will. At the same time, the judge allowed the executors to distribute the remaining two properties that have been left for Nyeri. However, if the two may in future want to claim it, or to claim the money, then they'll find it at the Unclaimed Assets Authority. Bas. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto has explained why he wants the National Government Constituency Development Fund protected and made a constitutional fund. President Ruto said his proposal to Parliament last week, asking the two houses to make the NGCDF a constitutional institution, is meant to secure development of education in the country. He said NGCDF has facilitated the construction of many schools and offered bursaries for tens of thousands of pupils and students across the country. Meanwhile, the head of state now says that his administration is committed to strengthening the opposition to enhance transparency and accountability in the country. He, however, asked the opposition to execute their mandate in a patriotic and peaceful manner.
Tunang'ang'ana kung'ang'ana. Hata wale wa upinzani, mi naona pia wanang'ang'ana. Wanapanga maandamano, wanajaribu kutukosoa, wanajaribu kutukumbusha. Hiyo mambo yao waendelee. The opposition to be empowered so that they can ensure that public resources are used properly, are used appropriately, so that we can run an accountable administration, because an accountable administration is the one that will bring transformation to the Republic of Kenya.
President Ruto said the government is committed to reducing public borrowing, adding that the government was implementing policies and programs that will boost the economy and increase revenue. He says that this is the surest way to collect much more revenue to finance development rather than resort to debt.
Hatuwezi kuendelea kama taifa kupanga mambo yetu ya maendeleo tukitumia madeni. Madeni karibu inaweka nchi yetu mahali papaya. Saa hizi tunatumia karibu trilioni 1 na milioni 400 kulipa madeni kila mwaka. Imepita yale mambo yote tunafanya, na ndio sababu tulikubaliana ya kwamba ni lazima kwanza turekebishe mambo ya uchumi, ndio tuweze kupata pesa sio ya madeni lakini ya ushuru wetu, ndio tuweze kujenga maendeleo yetu kwa msingi thabiti.
And Azimio leader Raila Odinga has opposed President William Ruto's proposal to amend the constitution in order to create the office of opposition leader. Raila said in a statement that the proposal by Ruto's administration to amend the constitution undoubtedly seeks to reintroduce the same matters that the Building Bridges initiative had suggested for many months. Raila claimed that despite his opposition to the BBI, Ruto was now appropriating Kenyans' views and speaking to the proposals as if they were his own. According to Raila, while the proposals are similar to those in the BBI, they cannot be presented in the same way or processed through the National Assembly. At the same time, he raised questions about how President Ruto would handle the same challenges he had raised against the BBI. The court, according to Raila, ruled that a sitting president cannot propose a constitutional amendment. And James Orengo is accusing President William Ruto of trying to sneak in constitutional amendments using Parliament to serve his selfish interest. Orengo and legislators Otiende Amolo of Rarieda and Samuel Atandi of Lagos Songa said through the calls for constitutional amendments were welcome, the matter must be subjected to the referendum as is dictated by the current constitution, adding that Parliament was not the best avenue for such changes.
Constitution is a major document. You must involve the people first. That is why you saw during the PBI process, there was a team that went all over the country. All over the country. Even if Parliament can change it, and Parliament is the wrong body to change a constitution. Because over the years, we had a very good constitution from Lancaster, but it was messed up by Parliament. A constitution is something that must go to the people.
The Siaya governor at the same time challenged President Ruto to tell Kenyans why a sudden change of heart about constitutional changes while he was opposed to the Building Bridges initiative that had all the changes that he was now championing for. Furtherfield and police in Wajir and Garissa are holding 6 individuals suspected to be members of Somali's Al-Shabaab militants. The developments came as Kenya heightened its operations at the main border following an onslaught in Somalia on the militants. Police said the 6 were apprehended separately while attempting to flee into Kenya after encountering a hostile environment in the Al-Shabaab training camps. The terror group recruits members from Tanzania, Kenya and Ethiopia by promising them relatively high pay, but they changed their minds once they arrive at the training camps, causing them to flee into Kenya. This is Newswire. I'm Den Saseta. Good morning.
Today's Newswire is powered by Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Listen to crisp and clear sounds while on the go.
I don't think we're going to have too much of a problem with traffic this morning, it being a holiday, and probably we'll see some movement as folks go to where? Kasarani? Nyayo? At some point today.
They're going somewhere.
But it's not now, that's for sure.
To get scholarships.
And a little bit more hustler. Okay, so not too much in terms of traffic, maybe a little bit of action around Landys Road. We're going to see that for the next few weeks, that's for sure, as people are making their way out of the great Nairobi city towards the holiday period. Into the CBD a little bit here and there, but apart from that, folks are still under the covers, I would assume. We will take a look at what happens as we get closer to 10 o'clock. But for now, you should be all right. Let's talk, just in case anything does go out of whack. SpiceFM, KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your
good morning,
day.
and how are you doing? Happy Jamhuri Day. Welcome to the second hour of Kenya's biggest conversation on this 12th day of the 12th month of 2022. And the first day of Christmas. Ati, what happens now on the first day? Sing it.
My true love gave to me a
Sing
partridge
it.
on the first day of Christmas. My
Sing
true
it
love.
nicely.
How is nicely done?
Why are
Slowly.
you rushing it? Yes.
On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a partridge in a pear tree.
What's that?
A partridge.
Bird.
It's a bird.
And the other thing?
A pear tree.
A tree
Is a what?
which bears pears.
Macadofia.
So the partridge is in the pear tree.
Yes. So you can imagine somebody gives you an entire tree with fruit and a bird. Person must love you, man.
What's the importance of the bird?
I'll
Is
tell
it
you
like a
in a minute.
luru? We can eat it.
It is like a lure.
Macadofia.
It's a luru.
A luru.
It is.
It's like a luru. It actually is. I hear the taste is it's very similar.
You know, there's a luru, there's a wendo.
I don't know that other one. I know a luru.
Which one is quail?
What do you think?
What do you want it to be?
Aluru, awendo. Yote ni mudege. Ndu,
Sir?
you know, over the weekend someone sent me a link to a story in the Financial Times.
Phew.
Yeah?
Okay.
The headline, The Mysterious Disappearance of Kiwi Shoe Polish.
Yes.
I was like, oh my
Oh,
goodness.
no. Yeah.
Even Ndu has not even eaten her money.
And they want to now, surely.
They want to disappear.
Don't
Kiwi.
disappear
understand.
Kiwi. Well, it's talking about, people in the Western world and their attitudes toward wearing shoes and polishing shoes. And so the market shrinking for those. And the company that deals with Kiwi, that is SC Johnson, deciding to offload it in those markets or stop dealing with it in those markets, but particularly concentrating in these markets of ours. Because sisi na viatu.
One
Polishing
shine.
the shoe is big time.
Indeed.
So, This is our week, City and I, to choose between who among us is going to get into a supermarket and purchase black kiwi shoe polish. So that we open the lid, go under it, read the code, do *459 *5#, get instant airtime or data, *459 *5#, instant airtime or data, and get into the draw for winning school fees, 35,000 shillings worth of school fees for ourselves. We have children in school.
No.
City and I. Sio watoto wako peke yako wanasoma.
Okay.
So you went into the draw last week, you didn't get a response.
What's the violence for? I don't understand.
Sorry. It's Jamhuri. Pole. So today, because it's the day for scholarships, I'm actually buying my kiwi today.
You're doing it?
Yes.
Okay, so...
Get my scholarship for studying from that university in America today. Get my kiwi shoe polish. Get school fees for my daughter who's in school in Kenya today. Bas.
Today's you're going to be busy?
Today I'm busy.
It's Monday.
I'm busy. It's Monday. We have a guest in the studio. Before we welcome him, let him hear the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverb today is from Equatorial Guinea, a country that borders Cameroon and Gabon. Both countries huge in size compared to Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea is like a small little piece of earth that was carved off, borders the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, that's the bigger neighbor.
Is it on the equator?
No, it's not. It's not on the equator. Yes. But
when you look at the equator like this,
in fact, I was looking at the equator and like exactly the way you said, and it's not on the equator.
Yeah.
Did you close with the right eye?
Yes, I closed the left eye, but even if you move the equator, it's still not on the equator. Okay. Nobody holds the cow by its horn while another is milking it.
Nobody holds the cow by its horn while another person is milking it.
The same cow. What do they hold?
If you've never milked a cow,
I haven't.
You would ask those
that's
questions.
a cow with horns, then yes, you would ask those questions.
I haven't actually.
Somebody who has will tell you, hardly, you don't do that.
Oh, I have. I've milked cow.
Okay.
What have you done? You've
Milked
witnessed
a
a cow being milked?
I've actually milked a cow, but not for 3 seconds.
Okay.
The duration of time doesn't matter. It's the experience. Even if it was just half a second, it's good enough.
I'm looking at the map, City, and equator, Tropic of Cancer up there, Tropic of Capricorn, Equatorial Guinea. Yes, the equator passes through Equatorial Guinea. It's there.
How many equators are there?
Just one.
Bwana. The one in Meru.
It's the same
the
one.
The one in Nanyuki.
The one in Maseno.
The one in Maseno. The one in Timboroa. Same one goes.
Does it move from time to time?
No, sorry.
Then how did it get to Equatorial Guinea?
The earth is round.
Edwin Dande is the CEO of Citon Investments. He's joining us in the studio this morning. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation again.
Asante.
Yeah, karibu sana. Can you see the equator moving?
No, I think it's static.
Wait, there are some places where you go to and you're like, wait a minute. How is that equator that's in Nanyuki going to Maseno? How is Nanyuki and Maseno on the same line?
It's that sort of thinking that led people to believe that the earth was flat. That thinking, the one you have.
That the earth was flat.
Yes, and then it also excommunicated people who said it was cylindrical, it was round, because they said this is heresy. How can the earth is not round, it is flat. So, equator. If it passes through Equatorial Guinea, it is okay.
It is equator.
Yes. If it wants to pass through some other place, it is still okay. I'm not going to argue with the equator. It can pass through where it likes.
It's fine.
Yeah, and I'll believe. Since it's not something I can actually see.
So it's not like Kayaba, which has been planted.
Yes, and you can say that's the equator. It's
like
it's
a fence.
No, it requires you to have a lot of faith to believe that the equator exists and that it's an imaginary line. So if it's,
Okay.
Enough said.
So be it.
Enough said.
Edwin, you're here because we want to talk about access to finance, a conversation that we've had before. The president is launching various projects. One of them is the Hustler Fund, of course, where he's saying the Hustler Fund, the personal loans right now are for you to get access to your own finance if you're running a sole proprietorship or whatever. Other products are coming up in February, the SME product and it's all about accessing finance to run businesses primarily. Now, this is, he's already said 8% is the lowest you can even get in the market, because commercial banks are giving you at higher interest rates. The other lenders are giving you at very higher interest rates. And so this is going to be a very cheap and more affordable way of accessing credit. Does it make sense?
It's a good signal, because he's addressing a problem that exists in the country. But before we discuss whether it makes sense or not, it's good to frame the issue. We have an issue of credit. Businesses cannot access credit. So you need to quantify how big or how small is the issue. Look at our GDP. It's around 12 trillion Kenya shillings. Now, if you want to then figure out how much credit do you need, you look at a metric called credit to GDP. So in this country, credit to GDP is around 32%. For an economy to work, for example, South Africa, credit to GDP is 100%. If you look at the more developed countries, Japan, China, US, it's 200%. So you have to start by saying, I need at least 100% credit to GDP. So you need 12 trillion of credit moving in the economy, right? But now if you look at where we are today, credit to GDP is at 33% in Kenya. That means you have 4 trillion of credit. So you have a gap between 12 trillion and 4 trillion. So your problem is 8 trillion. Very simple mathematics. So then you have to ask yourself, then what steps do I have to take to move from 4 trillion to 12 trillion? And you can't do everything. So you have to ask yourself, what are the top 3 things I have to do to be able to move from, even if you don't get to 12 trillion, at least get to even double, get to even 8 trillion. So what I like about what the president has done is that he has signaled to the nation that we have a problem and taken that first step. So that's the good part of it. But 50 billion a year will not move the needle. It's like a drop in the ocean to move from 4 trillion to where we need to be at 12 trillion. So it makes sense, but a lot more needs to be done.
Explain the logic of having 100% credit to GDP. What does that mean? It's credit in the private sector? Or
credit in the private sector. So that is funding businesses.
Total credit in the private sector should be about 100%, should match the GDP of the country.
Yes. If you look at South Africa, it's more looking at comparative statistics. You just take countries in the world.
South Africa is almost like to look at right now.
But at least it works better than where we are. Or you go look at the US. It's like looking at, for example, standards of living versus way of governance. Why is it that countries that are more democratic tend to have better standards of living? So it's really based on comparative analysis.
I would prefer we look at the Asian countries. And the reason why I'm saying that is because of their saving culture. The capacity that they have for saving lots and lots of money. So that even when you talk about this credit to GDP, what you're actually referring to is a situation where the country is actually borrowing from its own resources or from its own people. So these things that we end up, like now, if you look at the headline in one of the papers today, we are likely to pay 4.5 billion shillings simply because the dollar has done a thing. Okay, because we borrowed. The borrowing was pegged to the dollar. And yet, so the shilling to the dollar. Yet, if we borrowed in shillings, that problem wouldn't exist.
But now, Edwin is actually talking about credit in the private sector, not government borrowing.
In the private sector.
It's individuals borrowing.
Individuals and businesses.
And businesses borrowing within the economy for their own development.
Actually, the reason why I took it there was because government borrowing has a very direct impact on what is available for people to borrow. Very direct.
And City, that's a good point. But if you look at, it's good you've asked for the Asian countries. Japan is 192, so essentially 200%.
200, yes.
South Korea 170. So at least even when you look at those Asian countries, they are way above 100%. So even when I was saying it needs to be 100% like match GDP, I'm still being
Very
conservative. Yeah. Where we are saying at least let's get to South Africa. Or
Why are we at 33%?
That's now the primary. You started by asking me
about made sense.
If Hustler Fund makes sense. And yes, it makes sense as a signaling to a problem we need to address. But the question you've asked is really the central question. Why are we at 33%? And what are the steps we need to take to get to 100%? Because once citizens then understand the issue, then they'll be able to evaluate these steps that are being taken. Are they really speaking to the issue? If we ask why are we at 33%, and then you go look at these other economies, you'll find what we spoke about here the last time. This credit is not coming from one place. If you take, I always prefer to give US as an example because I'm familiar with that market. You'll always find that of this credit, 60% comes from capital markets, 40% comes from the banking sector. Now imagine you're dealing in a market where you've wiped out the entire capital market, so you are left with only 40%. So the key issue, if you are to do one thing in this country to improve credit, it would be to stimulate our capital market. It's such a simple thing once you understand the framework of where credit comes from. So then the question is, will the Hustler Fund and initiatives like that be able to bridge the gap between 4 trillion to, let's say, 8 trillion or 12 trillion? It's a good signal. But the real problem that we need to fix, and if we don't fix it, I always tell people, let us talk about these initiatives 5 years from now, whether it's funding irrigation, funding affordable housing. If you don't solve the credit problem, we will be here again in 5 years.
I mean, usually when we look at a problem, we've already formed possible solutions in our minds as per say, look, this is an issue. It's been an issue for as long as there has been, number one, the entrepreneurial spirit, whether it has been called that or not, as long as there has been the need for development, there has been this problem. There has been the issue of access to credit. And when we look at that problem, the solutions have been formed in our minds. Rudimentary, complex, whatever the solutions may be. And that remains the question. How then should or would governments or entities then sort this credit problem? Because in as much as it is a troublesome problem in Kenya, it is one in very many other countries that in order to get the economy going, you have to have private business at the forefront. Now, one of the impediments to private business is the access to credit. How will that then be solved? What are some of the answers?
It's a good question, and remember, it's not only access to credit. It has two facets. It's access to credit is not there, and when you get it, it's terribly expensive for those who can even access it, because you are paying anywhere between 18 to 20% if you take the all-in cost of credit. Now, going back to your question, what needs to be done? It's something that I've given quite a bit of thought, but then I've looked at where are the areas where we've done well as a country, and I picked two areas. One is digital money, M-Pesa. We've been able to, digitize money like no one else has done in the world. So if we can do that, why can't we then grow credit? The next place where I think we've done well is generally democracy, our constitution, compared to other markets, where we've been able to actually do away with the old constitution, bring a new constitution. If you look at those two areas, there was a group that formed and said, we are going to change this. I think it's often said that M-Pesa would not be there if you didn't have people like Mishuki, who said, do away with this old way of doing things. Let us give Safaricom a chance to digitize. If you look at the new constitution, there were the reformists led by people like Raila and the people around him who said, no, we want to do away with the old constitution. We want a good way, a new way of doing things. So I think to resolve this credit thing, you will need a Mishuki in the financial services or in the capital markets who will look and say, let us look at all the structural impediments to credit coming into the market, and then let's rewrite the constitution, so to speak, of our financial services field. I don't see any other way, because they are almost like myriads, many impediments in the regulations that when you look at it wholesomely, you realize that you really cannot bring enough credit into this market. You only have the banking sector financing businesses. 99% of credit is coming from banks. You've killed an entire section that could bring you credit into this market.
Paint for us a comparative picture, Edwin, let's talk with the US, where you have experience in, and how the capital markets in the US help businesses from startup to that point where they're actually growing as businesses, and then compare that with Kenya and the challenges. Show us where that challenge is and what it would look like if it was working well.
I think the challenge starts from the top, governance, so to speak. It's good you've asked about the US. I can't remember his name, but the guy who runs our equivalent of CMA, the Securities and Exchange Commission. You couldn't find a better qualified person in capital markets than that guy. He has taught the subject matter in some of the best schools in the US. He has practiced it, not only in Wall Street, but at Goldman Sachs, the best place you could possibly practice capital markets. He has then regulated it from the government side. So he knows it from an academia point of view. He knows it from a practice point of view. He knows it from a government point of view. Then now he's seated there regulating the entire thing. So he's able to then facilitate the process. Then you come to so there's a governance, and then there's also what I would call the aspiration of a nation. These are nation that, and when I say these are nation, I refer to the US, that wants to innovate, create things and sell to the world. So we need that mindset, and it's good you're asking about it, because today is Innovation Day, Jamhuri Innovation ICT Day. So we need that kind of thinking where we say, how do we get people with ideas? How do we fund these people with ideas? And how do we throw these ideas to the market? If the idea is good, it will sell. If it's bad, it will be killed. It shouldn't matter where you come from, your last name and things like that. It should just matter what is your idea. You put it in the market, people fund you. If it's a good idea, it grows. If it's a bad idea, it dies.
It dies.
Yeah.
Practically, I wanted a practical example of how the capital markets could help those ideas. There are very many ideas that then would be looking for money at whatever stages in the development of a business. How would the capital markets help such an idea to actually become a big conglomerate?
Yeah. If today you have a commercial idea and you go to a bank, they will ask you for collateral, so you can't move.
Yeah.
That's why capital markets are important. Now, capital markets, you will start from the venture stage, the initial stage. In fact, even the venture stage, you start with an angel investor. An angel investor is somebody who is your friend, family. They will forgive you if these things don't work out. Then after that, you go to commercial venture capital. Then you go to a place where you have to put credit. Then you have equity investment. So there's a whole continuum of investment that an idea goes through. So if the funding is not there and you have an idea, you won't go far. But if we stimulate capital markets and you as Eric come and say, I have this better way of doing radio or doing TV or doing whatever, you'll put it there, then we will have a way for investors to evaluate it. It's called an information memo, where we send it to people and say, this is Eric's idea and it needs $1 million, for example. People will evaluate it and say, okay, I'm willing to give you 10,000. And you see, within the capital market, there is governance, so that when you send the 10,000, there is a trustee, there's a custodian, and if this idea works, then you will share in the return. If it doesn't work, then you know that your 10,000 will go south.
But at what stage is this? Is it at the listing stage?
No, these capital markets, by the time it gets to the listing stage, it's almost like now ordinary. It's been properly de-risked. This is at a point when it's still private, because even capital markets, there's the regulated and the unregulated. And it's good you've asked that, because those are some of the things that we need to change in this country for people to realize capital markets also can be unregulated. So at that venture stage, it's very private. Yeah.
It's individuals actually just looking at your idea and then putting money into it.
Yeah.
And because it's not regulated, who's shouldering the risk?
Because it's, okay, whether it's regulated or unregulated, the investor shoulders the risk anyway. The issue of regulation or no regulation is just difference in playing ground.
Yeah.
In the regulated sector, what we are saying is that you are dealing with, for lack of a better word, wanjikos.
Yeah.
So you need somebody to step in for them and review these products or be a referee. In the private arena, you're dealing with people who are sophisticated or ought to be sophisticated. So they can hire a lawyer or an accountant, or they can read the information memo for themselves and reach a conclusion. So you don't always have to have products regulated.
Okay. Time for a break, 7:30. We are talking about the challenge of accessing finance in Kenya. And Edwin Dande, the CEO of Citon Investments, is here with us in the studio. What is it that we need to do to actually improve on this particular sphere? Ndu, please tell Bwana Dande about the watch. He's wearing one. Tell him about the other one.
The other one that is able to basically predict your life.
This one. Give it to him.
Okay. You want to feel it even?
Actually, I was wondering, what is this?
Yeah, I know. So this is a Samsung.
Wonder no more.
The details. Give me those numbers. The details of this Samsung watch. You put it on. It can regulate your sleep. It can regulate your heart. Don't ask me about heartbreak. I don't know those things. But this one can tell you whether, your heart is in, distress. Have you slept enough? It can count your steps. Tell you when you need to, stand up and take a step or two. It's technology as a companion. And Samsung is saying, how about this piece of technology to be your mate?
Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. That's what it is. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yolanda Mulo and DJ Absolute. When the gang is together, you know it's
Sugar and Spice.
Great vibes, conversations, a lot of humor. I like to say we don't give an F, we give 3 Fs.
You and I are in this relationship, so it is me to tell you who we are.
When you ask a chick, how many guys have you been with? She's like, including you. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock. If I were you, I'd tune in to SpiceFM 94.4.
I want you on my team.
So does everybody else.
Yeah. All right, cloudy conditions and a bit of a drizzle in Nairobi. Highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's 14 and sunny in Nakuru. Highs of 25 and lows of 13. And we'll see highs of 23 in a partly sunny Nyeri at 14. It's 14 and sunny in Eldoret. Highs of 24 and we'll see highs of 32. In a rainy Mombasa this morning at 27. It's 28 and raining as well. In Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 26. Looking into Kisumu, it's partly sunny at 18. Highs of 28. And we'll see highs of 26 in Kakamega, where it is partly sunny at 18. Looking out into Kampala, it's sunny at 19, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31. In a rainy Dar es Salaam at 25. It's mostly cloudy at 16 in Johannesburg with highs of 23. It'll come down to lows of 15. And it's mostly clear at 25 in Lagos, highs of 32 and lows of 25. We'll see highs of 30 in Kinshasa. It's mostly clear at 23 this morning.
Spice up your life.
Again, we're not going to have too much of a problem with traffic this morning. Minimal traffic on most of these Nairobi streets this morning. Unfortunately, we've had 1 or 2 crazy accidents this morning. So please, the thing is, remain careful. Expressway is closed. Says who? Why? People are being ferried to Nyayo Stadium. Does that mean the expressway is closed? You have to find out about that and find out if that really is the case. You should be able to use it regardless. We don't have much traffic coming off of anywhere. We're seeing some action right around Landis to be expected. That busy bus station will be that way for the next few days or so. Actually, probably next couple of weeks in and out for Christmas. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us this morning. Let us know what's going on where you are in an attempt to keep things moving this morning.
Spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
94 to 8 to continue the conversation with Edwin Danda. We're talking about challenge of accessing finance in Kenya. So one of the things that you're saying, Edwin, is that we seem to have one primary source of credit, which is the banks.
The banking sector.
The banking sector. And yet we should have multiple sources of credit. Now, the capital market, as you say, is one wide pool that we could go into, and we're not getting into it. Mainly because you say regulation, this and the other. Is it because of the lack of awareness that we are in the situation that we are in, or is it because of other mischief?
I think it's a little bit of both. Because as I keep saying, the problem is straightforward. You have 4 trillion coming from the banking sector. You're supposed to have 12. If you take capital markets, you're supposed to have regulated and unregulated. So if banks gave the 4 trillion that they've given, you have private capital markets giving 4 trillion, regulated capital markets giving 4 trillion. You are home and dry.
Yeah.
So what you are missing is that 8. So then your question, if I had to break it into pieces, you're asking, why isn't there a development of regulated capital markets to deliver 4 trillion? And why is there a development of private capital markets to deliver 4 trillion?
Okay.
I think it's where we are as a country. We have to develop. We are developing the kind of thing that you are doing as Spice FM. That's where you have to start, where you're educating people. Guys, listen, the reason why you cannot access credit is that these two parts of our markets are sleeping. So what do we do? Because if you talk to my grandmother and ask her what is private capital markets, she would not know. But when you start conversations like this, it starts to stick into people's minds.
Let me take a step back in this whole, for education, just a little bit. I mean, we've heard it many, many times, but then what is the role of capital markets in this whole string of things? What is their role? What do they do? Who are they? What are they?
Good question. This is the market that goes and looks for people like Ndu who want to save and get a better return, rather than just putting your money in the bank. And it's interesting, these days you put it in the bank, you get nothing for it. The bank then lends it to the government at 14%, and the government has to tax you again to pay that 14%. So you are getting nothing as you lend the money. The money is lent to the government, and then you have to pay.
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
You're the one who pays the money that you lend.
So, what the capital markets would do, we would come and convince and do that. Look, don't put all that money in the bank. Let it also circulate within the capital markets. When it goes to the capital markets, of course, it's creating more businesses, creating a bigger revenue base, creating more taxes and growing the economy. So the capital markets is a place where people with money put it to earn a return. The ideas and businesses that are looking for money go there to get that cash. And I keep saying it can both be regulated and unregulated. Those two pieces are essentially completely missing in this country.
The examples that you've given of those other countries, looking at the Asian countries, Japan, Korea, that are at close to 200%, did they develop this way? Did they start with a heavier leaning towards the banking sector and then the development of the capital markets, or did they happen simultaneously?
Almost all economies start with the banking sector, because that's what we know. A bank is where the money is. But then as you get more sophisticated, you realize that, look, you can't do it with the banking sector alone. Let us develop our capital markets. Luckily for Kenya today, I'm confident that the average informed ordinary citizen is ready to deal with the capital markets, because if they can deal with M-Pesa, why wouldn't they be able to deal with capital markets? So we just need to have that national conversation or the Mishuki drive to open up these capital markets. So yes, we are developing, but it's not at a point where you can say the citizen or the nation is not ready. It's just like democracy. We were ready. We just needed that push in terms of the 2010 constitution. So we need a 2010 constitutional moment within the capital markets, and it will open up.
Who controls them? Who controls these capital markets? Because what we're saying essentially here is that this access to credit problem that everybody cries about, whether you're at, a one-man army business or you're a 100-man army, 1,000-man army business, that the access to credit is an issue. But we are saying that if capital markets then would pick up the slack a little bit, bear this real responsibility on their shoulders, that we could probably see this gap then starting to close. Who runs these markets? Who? Because it's not some amorphous figures. There must be who are the people behind the market?
I will use again our politics. If you remember that thing called Section 2A, I don't know if you can remember the repealing of Section 2A. Before it was repealed, it was a one-party system. Once it was repealed, it opened up and anybody could form a party. Currently, our financial services are under a Section 2A kind of environment, where if you take all these things in totality, it's the banking sector that is in control of the economy. So what then you need to do is to repeal, have a Section 2A moment. Once you do that, it opens up and it's almost like asking who controls the political environment or the political parties. There's really now no one person. You will have formations. You're going to have the Azimio formation, you're going to have the UDA formations, and then you're going to have these other
independents,
chamandogondogo as they call them. And every 5 years, there'll be a reformation.
But you can see them, Edwin. You can point to them and say that these are the individuals who ran said political party. You can look through history of time and say there was this individual, there was an Eric, there was a Charles, there was an Edwin. And you can't tell me that with this money that's running in, or lack of money, and the people, again, who bear the responsibility or have the task then of making sure that there is superfluous money in the economy, that they are ghosts. Are they banks? Are they banks? Are they external financial institutions? Are they individuals with a huge... Who are they?
I would say they are mainly the money centers. The money centers being essentially the banks that control the majority of deposits and loans. So that's one player. Then there is also Treasury, CBK, CMA, the regulators. That's now the second player. And then I think you now need the citizens and the political parties to be aware of the challenge so that they can begin to agitate and have a conversation with the regulators, with the government, and with the money centers, and say, there is a problem. How do we resolve it?
And there it is. And that's the problem. And that's the question. If you have Treasury as part of this whole menagerie right here, who is tasked with the responsibility of making sure at some level that the economy is working for its citizens, and then also realizes the responsibility it holds to make sure that there's credit flowing through, because it is clear that if the private part of the citizenry is going to run this economy, that we have to then make it viable for them to do so. But at the same time, you hold a certain control of the reins. You are taking here and putting here. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
You're really getting to the core of the problem. If the problem is obvious, how come it's not being resolved by these people who are around? And I think if there's ever a time to resolve this, it's this regime. Because let's be honest, the previous regime and the banking sector were close. So it is just conflict of interest. If I am on this side, and that's the side that butters my bread, of course I won't have the incentive to really push for the other side. This current regime, at least as far as I know, is not in bed with the banking sector, so to speak. They don't own banks. And if anything, I hear the leader of majority, Ishungwa, constantly saying big telcos are too expensive. You are exploiting citizens. The cost of credit is too high. So they seem to want to resolve the issue. I think it is more getting to understand what the issue is, because yes, they are complaining about savings rate are too low. They're complaining cost of credit is too high. But I also don't hear them saying, and this is why. So that they can then put the conversation about capital markets at the center of trying to resolve the things that they are trying to resolve. One mistake we keep making, when cost of credit is too high, we then want to regulate banks. That is not the solution. Let the banks make as much money as they can. Leave them alone. Go and create these markets that don't exist so that they compete with the banks. So they are always they're always trying to solve the problem the wrong way by saying, let's regulate banks, let us cap interest rates. We tried that for 3 years. It didn't work. We took it out. They should just leave the banking sector alone and go and create this market that does not exist. So what I tend to find frustrating is there's not a lot of conversation going on where it ought to be happening. There's a lot of conversation going on where you cannot do much about them.
You know, in the first years of the Kibaki administration, 2003, 2004, and those first years, into the second term, we saw some robustness in the capital markets. This is the time when everybody now started looking at the Nairobi Stock Exchange, which renamed into Securities Exchange, into the CMA coming into proper robustness. So there was a direction and a shift being led by government in going to the capital markets. With the IPOs, this is the government going to the capital markets to actually raise capital from there. Was that a good trend? And what is it that happened? How come it went and just went silent? We haven't seen any new listings in the NSE for a while.
I think Kibaki was a unique president in the context that he stayed back and let the economy, the professionals work. And yes, you saw a more active capital markets. But they didn't go far enough to actually reconstitute the relevant acts, the relevant regulations. So then you have a capital market that depends on then who is in power. You need to change it such as so that it's a totally new beginning, such as the Constitution of Kenya 2010, where before that, for example, the swearing in of the president depended on whatever the Chief Justice wanted. But now we can know our next president will be sworn in on this particular date between this time and that time. So we just need to reconstitute the regulations and the policies around the capital markets arena so that it doesn't really depend on which regime comes into power.
If you say then that the government shouldn't have any control, so to speak, how then will we cure this crony capitalism that we have? Even if we create the capital markets, will we not see the same things that we see within the banking sector? Because it's one huge club. Yes, it is. And they are in bed with the government. And as you correctly put it, you have your money in the bank lends it out, and then you end up paying because the government has borrowed and you need to pay. And they keep making money. And you say correctly that if we then strengthen the capital markets, then indeed it would be competition. But for how long? Because the way I see it, it's the same people who own banks who will probably again be in the capital markets. I'm talking about Kenya as it is. So what real change will there be?
CT, you are right that it's probably the same people, but not quite. First, even if it's the same people, at least let's have two different sectors competing for funding the government and funding businesses. However, it's also unlikely. You always find that the people who really drive capital markets and the people who drive banking sector and even the people who drive insurance in a more developed country tend to be very different people. A banker thinks about collateral. The moment you walk in, the first thing is, what can I hold? Do you have land? Do you have a car? A banker thinks about cash flow. If these were to succeed, how much money would come out of this idea? They're always thinking about the future. So these two markets think very differently. One is collateral driven. I want to first hold something before I fund your idea. The other one is future cash flow driven. I want to take a bet on how much money could come out of this idea. So the two are not in any market going to be one and the same people.
In big economies such as the ones you refer to in the West, yes, it is possible. But in ours, no. Everybody, the moment someone is in an industry that's predominantly money-oriented like a bank, they'll be into everything else. I mean, I'm just going by history. Yes. They're in the hotel business, they're in horticulture, you name it.
Because they have the money.
Yes, that's it. So, again, I am looking at the broader picture of how this will benefit the Mwananchi. I don't see it. If it benefits the
City,
Mwananchi...
what do you see? So let's take this one person called Mr. Muga,
Yes.
right? Who is so liquid, he actually owns a bank.
Yes.
He's so liquid, he also is in the other sectors of the economy.
Yes.
If there was a developed capital markets, he'd also play a role in it. He'd like what Edwin is saying, he'd take some of his money and save by investing in the capital markets.
Yes.
And have a huge say in it.
Yes.
Is it going to be a conflict of interest? That's what you're saying. There's
Yes,
going
there
to be
will
a conflict.
because in this country they will not play a part; they'll own it.
But because
they'll control it. That's really what I'm saying.
Aren't you seeing, City? Because this person is completely selfish, they look at the side that is actually making them more money. And if the capital markets is making them more money, then
go with it.
They'll go with it.
I'm starting from the point of view of the issue of control. Huh? The reason why central banks exist is predominantly because of that reason. There wasn't always a central bank. The US that Edwin has been quoting didn't have a central bank. No, it was just banks. And those guys were running amok. Seriously. They could decide what happens, how and when. It was a small club of people. And then they figured, no, this isn't really going to help the country in the long run. And so even those so-called big banks, Morgan, which later became Morgan Stanley and what have you, came together and figured how to cobble up something that later became a central bank or a Federal Reserve Bank. What I'm saying is, the control notwithstanding, I am looking at the practice that we have in this country and how it is the people who own capital, people who own money, and how they conduct themselves. I'm simply saying, yes, the diversity is important and it's good. But all we'll have done is given these people a bigger playing field where they can own more.
Where they can play Monopoly in real life.
Yes, that's all that will have happened. Yes, I don't see how that will, forget trickling down, how that will be of direct benefit to the so-called Mwananchi. I don't see it.
City, I can see what you're saying, but I think you're also being a little bit too cynical.
No, this isn't cynicism. This is realism.
Where you're saying that if we then stimulate the growth of capital markets, it will replicate almost one for one what is happening in the banking sector.
And the Mwananchi will suffer more as a result of it. Well, let me give an alternate example to what I'm saying and how this has developed over time. If you look at communities that are business-minded or that with whom we relate business to, they have informal ways in which they do business. Okay? For instance, Eric and I own land. Okay? You own a factory. Edwin has a bank. Now, because we're in the same community, a third person comes along, they don't necessarily have to have money. They just need to have members of their family guaranteeing something, and you will be able to give them credit by giving them goods. We will be able to give them land and say, we have this land, you can build here. Not charging them anything. The collateral will be the confirmation and the backing of their family. Okay? But again, it's collateral. If you look at, again, those same communities where in the absence of, say I want money in the US, and I know how it works and I know people in that system, I don't have to go to SWIFT or anything. No. I simply need to go to those people and travel to the US. I'll get my money waiting for me in the US. Okay? I'll just need to go and see so and so, and that's it. So what I'm saying is, these systems come about when people realize that this other sector that we have, it may work, but it has impediment. It doesn't serve our interest well.
I hear you, and the reason why, and I hear the example you are saying about an area where you know family or it's one person controlling, but there's also the example of when we were a single party system, when KANU was Baba na Mama. Then we opened it up. Would you then say that the emergence of these many parties has really hurt the Mwananchi? I don't think so.
No, it hasn't.
Yeah, so it is the same thing within capital markets. It will be an opportunity for somebody to come up with another idea in the capital markets arena, which could upset the other side, which is the banking sector. And even if it might not happen, CT, at least let us take the chance and then say, okay, we tried and it didn't happen. The same way we took the chance when we were seated as a one-party system, we took the chance and say, let's open for other parties and see how it works. I think it has been better for the country. It could be the same people creating the same formations every 5 years, but at least they know now I have to deal with other people to get into power, as opposed to I only have to get into KANU to be in power.
That optimism of yours is actually the enemy of progress here.
Okay.
You see, we talk about President Kibaki and the things he did. President Kibaki, when he came in, remember this man was an economist. That guy had worked in government. He understood that this guy knew. And if you ask me, during his presidency, he's the one who ran Treasury, if you ask me. Okay? Now, that first year, if you remember, all of these huge capital projects were halted. Nothing. It's like, let's reorganize ourselves and see exactly where we are. The thing that stood out for me is how he reduced our dependency on borrowing. Now, what that did was it released money. Okay? The banks didn't have this lazy approach towards making profit by simply lending to government. They started hawking money to the Mwananchi. No, it wasn't even complicated, but the Mwananchi was able to borrow. It was not complicated. Now, we've seen what works. It worked very well. Then the Uhuru government came in and it's like we reversed all that completely. So we didn't even, there's a talk of going back to factory settings. This one, even the factory didn't exist. So there was no setting to talk about. So here we are now again struggling, and yet there is a blueprint of what was done and what makes the very thing you're saying possible. Because if money is available to the Mwananchi, what you then do is you increase the circulation of money because a lot of people have it. The capital markets you're talking about then has a place it can nestle in and where it can work. But now the dry docks that we're in right now, and you're trying to usher water into it, that water will just be swallowed by the earth. And you'll still have a dry dock, and you'll be wondering whether all that water you pumped in, you'll be wondering where it went to.
So you know it's Jamhuri. Be optimistic a little bit, eh?
No, but that's the whole point. I'm talking freely. It's Jamhuri. That's the whole point. Did we not attain independence? These are the fruits of independence. Yes. You see, I believe that what Edwin is saying is true and it is good, and one should think along those lines. But the playing field has to be one that's conducive for what he is saying.
It's our reality.
Yes, so that the benefits he's talking about can be a reality. That's really all I'm saying.
You are saying we are not ready to develop our capital markets.
No. I am saying the people in power are not ready to help us develop it because the system as it exists benefits them sufficiently anyway.
But then we are saying the same thing. That's why I said we need a constitutional moment in the financial services industry.
At what point did I disagree with that?
Edwin, come again soon.
Please.
Looking forward to it.
Edwin Danda is the CEO of Saiton Investments. Thank you very much for joining us. We wish you all the best. Are you going to Nyayo Stadium?
I will pass by.
Yeah,
but
pass
I'm
by
not
there.
appropriately dressed. I see you have to be in yellow.
No, that's a choir. That's a choir. No, you're dressed. That's black is the color of the Kenya's flag. Yes. Good morning. Keep it here for more conversations. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. National Assembly Majority Leader Kimani Ichung'wah now says the proposal to amend the constitution and create the office of the official opposition is meant to strengthen democracy and is not a sweet deal or a handshake. Ichung'wah said the move will ensure the government is properly held into account. He further reiterated that members of parliament will carefully consider the proposals, initiate public participation and do the right thing to ensure Kenyans are well served by the Kenya Kwanza government.
It is a misconception by those who think and imagine that you are giving them a sweet deal. You are not in the business of giving anybody any sweet deal. Therefore, let us not get confused like those who are getting confused. That His Excellency has an olive branch, he has a sweet deal, he's probably thinking about a handshake. Mambo ya handshake, Your Excellency, wewe mwenyewe ni wewe ulituambia. Hiyo mambo ndio ilituletea mambo mbaya.
And it seems troubles in Azimio keep increasing. This after section of Jubilee delegates hailing from Nairobi raised issues over the status of their relationship with Azimio la Umoja One Kenya. The delegates are pushing for the party to exist Raila Odinga-led coalition within the next 14 days, led by former Jubilee candidate for Makadara constituency Mark Ndungu, who was formally endorsed as the new chairperson of the party. They cited political deceit and selfishness. They outlined a series of events where the retired President Uhuru Kenyatta-led party has been shortchanged in sharing of plum positions within the coalition.
Sisi tunaona hii marriage saa hii si marriage mzuri. Na sisi tunasema hivi, hii mambo ya maandamano, sisi kama watu wa Nairobi Jubilee tunaambia Nairobians msikubaliane na hiyo maneno. Kwa sababu saa hii ndio biashara zetu zimeanza kurudi. Tumekuwa na COVID, tena mtuambie maandamano. Na tunajua hii maandamano ni kitu selfish na ni ya mtu mmoja.
We also need some clarity on the payments that were meant for the agents under the Azimio coalition. Tunajua tulikuwa na msukosuko kidogo na those funds did not serve the intended purpose. Hazikufikia wale watu zinafaa. So we need a clarity from the party officials.
And tourism stakeholders in Mombasa have welcomed the introduction of Mombasa-Zanzibar flights by the Marifly Air Service. The new service has been lauded as a boost to the tourism sector. The new route connecting the coastal city of Mombasa and the island of Zanzibar was a move in the right direction as Kenya's tourism eyes full recovery following the easing of travel restrictions in the wake of the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. The new flight intends to serve people of both countries, including international guests who want to sample the various attractions in the two destinations which have similar characteristics.
So this is a very welcome development because it will promote business between Mombasa and Zanzibar and also tourism because Mombasa and Zanzibar are both tourist destinations. And it was unfortunate that we didn't have a direct flight between Mombasa and Zanzibar. Many of the tourists that are going to Zanzibar now will prefer coming to Kenya for the game drives. And therefore this flight will promote tourism not only for Mombasa but also for Zanzibar, which is like twin islands in this Indian Ocean region.
And police in Wajir and Garissa holding 6 individuals suspected to be members of Somalia's Al-Shabaab militants. The development came as Kenya heightened operations at the main border following an onslaught in Somalia on the militants. Police said the 6 were apprehended separately while attempting to flee into Kenya after encountering a hostile environment in the Al-Shabaab training camps. The terror group recruits members from Tanzania, Kenya and Ethiopia by promising them relatively high pay, but they change their minds once they arrive at the training camps, causing them to flee into Kenya. Tanzanian banker Yusuf was arrested in November in Liboi, Garissa County, while 3 of his colleagues escaped. The 5 Ethiopian nationals were apprehended at the border after escaping, citing a hostile environment as the reason for their escape. Nur Osman Chawo, Suleiman Kadu Shale, Mohammed Abdukadir Jibich, Ridwan Haji Abdul Bashir and Anwar Jamal Haji Wado told police they were recruited and taken to Somalia for training before being enlisted to fight in various parts of Somalia. Police officers are now using the information obtained from the suspects to improve border patrols, particularly along the routes and areas that militants fleeing Somalia are likely to use to enter the country. Police say they are keeping a close eye on the situation in Somalia and that more security personnel have been deployed to the border. And President Joe Biden this week will announce U.S. support for the African Union's admission to the G20 group of the world's largest economies as a permanent member. Biden will make the announcement during the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington, when Biden will meet presidents of African countries. This is Newswire. Dennis Asada, good morning.
The SpiceFM Newswire is brought to you by the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. Get to see the world through a new lens and capture the moments that truly matter.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Not much in terms of traffic on the roads this morning. We're looking at a little bit of it here and there, but I don't think we're going to have a problem today. How many times can we say it? Well, let's just say one more time, especially at around 8 o'clock, where usually we're seeing some movement here and there. But it's not going to be too bad this morning. How about we talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter?
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Let me tell you, my friend, it is 7 minutes after 8, and my friend, today is Jamhuri Day. My friend, today is Innovation Day. My friend, if you make your way to Nyayo National Stadium, you'll go home with a scholarship.
Sindio? Ukikuja Nyayo utapata scholarship. Ya nini?
Ya kusoma.
Nini?
So many vijana.
Si kusoma kosi mingi.
Ndio upate kazi.
Yes, now you've got it.
Kovi.
Well,
you have got it.
I am understanding.
Yeah, Mheshimiwa Rais alisema hayo mambo ambayo tunasema.
Yes, alisema yale mambo ambayo sisi pia tunasema.
Yes.
Yes. Alithibitisha mambo yale.
Yes.
Tunayosema sisi.
And among other things, he'll also be telling us about, the Hustler Fund. He'll tell us about his...
how to increase the Hustler Fund.
What to increase?
He's only 10 days to 100 days in office. City, how many days? City, you didn't even count the day
I have counted
it was last week on Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay?
No,
Yes.
it was the other week.
When the PSs were
being sworn in. Habana? It was last week, my dear.
When did you come back to the country?
It was a day I wasn't around. It was a Friday.
See, only last week.
Yeah, see, last week Tuesday. It was
Okay, sorry.
Give or take.
The last week before Tuesday,
Give
that
or
was Friday. It's okay. Give or take
Sawa,
3 days.
sawa,
97 days, 100 days.
So how many days, City, have you given him?
100
Beginning Friday last week.
93. Summer to 93 from
93.
today. 93 from today.
Yeah, from today, 93 days.
That's you.
That's when me counting now those 100 days.
He has 10 days to the first 100 days in office.
Let me tell you some of the things that he's doing. Can I tell you? Or you wanted City to tell us the proverb from Equatorial Guinea?
He'll tell us the proverb from Equatorial Guinea. I'll also tell you about Centum and the Centum Real Estate. They've launched phase 2 of 1255 Palm Ridge apartments, selling from as low as 2.45 million shillings in Vipingo, Kilifi. It's unbelievable. 2.45 million shillings. You get ample parking, play areas, you get water, you get access to a road, you get access to the beach, everything else. And all you need to do is put in a deposit of 245,000 shillings and you begin your journey towards home ownership. To get more information, SMS the word Vipingo to 22365. 22365. SMS the word Vipingo and they'll get back to you with more details. City,
yes.
Equatorial Guinea.
Remember, I did say that I'll tell you a little bit more about the country.
Yes.
Okay. The president is called Teodoro Obiang. Okay. He's the world's longest-serving head of state. All right. And he's been sworn in recently for the 6th 7-year term.
I love it.
6 times 7. Okay. He's now 80. And he's been in power since 1979.
Okay.
Now, of interest, he has a deputy. And the deputy has a name that's quite similar to his. Now, he is called Teodoro Nguema Obiang Mangue. That's his son, who was born in 1968, which makes him 54 years of age now as we speak. All right?
That's the Vice President.
Vice President, his son.
That's right.
Keep it in the family, man. Keep it in the family.
Have the people of Equatorial Guinea complained?
If they're complaining, me, I haven't heard. Have you heard them complaining?
You call it nepotism. Then they say progression. I mean.
Good president, good son.
Allah.
Good son, good deputy president.
Yeah.
Yes.
Obiang.
The West, of course, still is a dictatorship. Dictatorship. Since when do dictators have vice presidents?
And elections.
And elections.
And
swearing in for the 7th time.
Yeah.
And
6th time.
in the open.
And determined terms.
Surely.
Yeah.
In the open.
Determined 7 years.
Yes, no.
Surely. This idea of dictatorships and dictators.
Nice.
Meow.
Yeah.
Proverb. And guess what I am doing? I'm reading it from
the Samsung Galaxy Tab 8
S8 Ultra.
That's that one.
Right. Nobody holds a cow by its horn while another is milking it. The another here is not another cow milking it. The another here is another person milking
Or another
the cow.
person milking another cow.
No,
nobody holds another cow while another person is milking.
Holds the cow. The another is your own creation. Nobody holds the cow. The cow.
While holding another.
With its horns.
Nobody holds a cow while another person is milking it.
No. Nobody holds a cow by its horns. horns. While another person is milking it.
The same cow.
Let's put it this way. Milking a camel. Are you happy?
I'm just confirming. We're talking about the same subject here. Because, it does a lot for meaning.
Sana.
Allah?
Nobody holds a cow by the horns while another person is milking it.
Is that what you said? It's not what you said.
That's exactly what I meant.
That's what you meant.
We have a guest in the studio. His name is Arnold Maliba. He is a public policy expert. Arnold, good morning. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Good to have you in the Situation Room.
Asante.
Yeah. Umelala wapi bwana?
Nimelala tu kwa nyumba.
Why are you bothering to ask that question? How is it his business? Yeye kwa nalala wapi? Anauliza watu wamelala wapi?
Sure.
Watu wengine hata hawakulala.
Wengine hawajalala.
Yes, tulilala wapi?
Looks like today he has got an inspiration in looking at statements differently.
No, that's an everyday occurrence.
So the differently is a daily occurrence.
Arnold, happy Jamhuri Day.
Happy Jamhuri Day to you. I ran a few minutes late because...
hence the question.
Because there is an activity around Nyeri Stadium.
Something.
For those of us who come from the other side, you have no other way of, especially if you didn't use the expressway. So...
Yeah, because they've closed this thing here.
They've closed what?
There are a lot of bottlenecks.
Where are you coming
around.
from?
From Langata Road. So there is no other way of actually like joining the expressway without, from where I come from, without necessarily going to Nyeri Stadium.
Okay.
Yeah.
This man needs to be taken around a tour of Nairobi so that he can also see that from Langata Road you can use the southern bypass.
No, the kind of Nairobi I came from.
This is the answer now to that question.
Okay, the kind of Nairobi you came. Okay, please go on. The kind of Nairobi you came from.
You know, Langata Road stretches from Nyeri Stadium all the way to Langata South Road and then the way to Magadi Road actually.
Magadi Road, yes.
So there's that section between that hotel, Weston, and Nyeri Stadium.
Right.
And then there's the one between that and then the bypass. And then there's one between that and Galleria. So it also depends with the Nairobi you're coming. It has the Langata you're coming.
All of them have access to the southern bypass.
No. The Nairobi you come from doesn't have access.
Until you drive to Nairobi West area and then looking at the bypass, it's quite so far. Then you have to queue and you can't reverse. Because the only other way is to go around that Nyeri Stadium that you're trying to avoid and then go back to the bypass.
How long have you been living in Nairobi?
I was born here.
Okay.
Yeah.
This same Nairobi?
Yes, I was born here. Okay. But then I was born on the other side of town. So you understand.
We are now understanding. It's okay.
You are now in Nairobi of up.
All right, sir, Baba.
Upper Nairobi needs a map. Ask Mark Bichachi, who is a communication strategist, who has lived for many years on that side of Nairobi, where there are trees and all.
Yes,
where you went to visit over the weekend.
Where there actually lives.
Yeah, where there are leaves. And monkeys that can enter into your house.
Oh, true. And terrorize your 8-year-old son. Yes, I have experienced that.
Yeah. But also, he's actually later than you. So
no.
You wonder.
Let me tell you, I have no excuses. I just have lost the skill to wake up early on a holiday. This is a fault of my own. I take full responsibility, not traffic, not the tarmac, not the bypass. Mark Bichati is at fault. Not near your stadium. I know where it is and I know how to avoid it. I apologize. Nice to see you again. Last time I was here, you were not here.
I
Prof.
was not.
And the scrutinizer in chief.
Karibu sana bwana. Happy Jamhuri Day.
To you too. 59 years of independence and 59 cases of difference between us and South Korea.
How do we start counting? South Korea had decided to change the way they count. Okay? So for a long time, South Korea, when a child is born,
they're one.
They are one. On day one, you're 1 year old. And then, so they've decided, okay, look, we have people who are 59 years old, but they're actually 58.
Yeah.
And then from the moment you start 18, there's something else that they do. There are people around who are 59 years old, but they're actually 60. So they've decided, you know what, let's collapse this whole thing. That's the part of the reason why some of these people are considered old and they can no longer work for government, but they're actually young and they should be able to work for government. So they have changed that. Anyway, gentlemen, karibuni sana. We are going to be discussing what we expect to hear from the president this morning at Nyeri Stadium as we commemorate Jamhuri Day, and also looking back at what the president has done so far in this administration and looking forward to what we expect to see. So right off the bat, Arnold, you from here, you go to your neighborhood, Nyeri National Stadium, get in, get out, go home with a scholarship.
Well, of course, we are going to see a lot of jokes going forward of people who have got a degree from the Arizona University and they graduated on the occasion, or rather in the congregation that was at Nyeri Stadium. But I do not expect that it's anything serious. The president probably was just getting by, of course, mobilizing. If you've been there, I don't know, Mark says he avoided it, but I've been there and I've seen lots of buses. I'm assuming those are so many guys who've come to graduate and not necessarily attend the 59th Jamhuri Day. But be that as it may, of course, we're talking about statesmanship. We're talking about the management of state affairs today. And I think statecraft is difficult. Of course, I'm introducing an entirely different word. Statecraft is quite difficult. Looks easy until you get in. Mark, I think you've had enough experience. I was lucky enough to get into government much earlier and, of course, left when I was young and ambitious and ideological. So one day we went to State House, met the president, and he
Which
told...
president?
President Uhuru Kenyatta, when I was sitting on a board, of course, one that is elected where we are not like appointed and we come in with a lot of entitlement. I have been sent by people, and specifically I was elected to the National Youth Council at that particular time. I was representing Nairobi to the National Youth Council, ended up being the spokesperson then. So one day we get to State House and we hadn't gotten a budget because it was a new parastatal. So there's a lot of politics around parastatal certification, categorization, and too much around it before you actually even get onto the budget. So with our ideological way of approaching, of a young person actually, because our board was 98% young people, because all of us were elected to go to the council. So we go to the president, and that is the day when I realized that having done political science wasn't even the brightest of things. Having even worked slightly as a journalist wasn't the best of things. Having worked in church. So the president brought the Minister for Finance, majority leader, who happened to be a personal friend even at that particular time, and the CS whom we were reporting to, and literally everybody, including the chairperson of the budget. And then they were told, you give these people 300 million shillings. And we were so happy. The president himself has said, at that particular time I had forgotten that in the constitution, presidential declarations must actually be in writing and have a seal. We were told you will get 300 million on your budget. They told the particular, Anna, sasa msikosane hapa na that other guy who was in finance then, Rotich, we usiende London kabla ufanye hiyo kitu. And we were so idealistic. We came out here and declared to the youth of Kenya that the president has said you'll get 300 million. Then I went and sat down, thought about it. And the following week when we pestered the control of budget, then he told me, I want you to come and sit in my office, because I was ile mtu sumbua kwa office.
You were just calling and saying, wapi pesa?
Yes. So the control of budget told me, I want you, and there was another colleague of mine, whom the two of us, who are the most quote-unquote stubborn. So I want you to work with me in this particular office today. And he told me, I'll give you access where no other people sit here. At that particular time, the control of budget that was in the office was actually just an acting guy. And he told me, look at that file. That is a CS, right? He's asking for 1.8 billion. You see that? You see that? And he took me through that afternoon. I worked in his office. And he pointed to me a lot of things and told me, you are a young man. I think you have got a head on your shoulders. And running government is not what you see outside there. And he told me, I have to ensure that you have got vaccines for children who are being born. We have got agreements with other organizations around the world, and that we must do. We have to subsidize. We have to take care of our airspace every day. They told me, your fellow young men are in Somalia. They are fighting and shooting. If they do not have fuel, if they do not have bullets, I have to balance that. And so you see this is what Treasury brings me every day. And once this comes in, I have to give out, the way they give out money, they call it exchequer. So I have to give out exchequer in this way. And he told me, I wish you well. I want you to grow and work in government. That afternoon, I saw things that when I went back, I told the other guys in the board meeting that we need to approach this thing differently. I respect that man. He was Harvard trained, so he wasn't necessarily an idiot. And he told me, I'm giving you this. And he told me now, at about 4:30, he told me, I want to go home in the next 30 minutes. I want you to tell me where I will get 300 million to give you. And he told me, the president did tell me where to get this money and give you. Yeah. You know the budgeting cycle, right? You have taught about it and you're also being taught about it, right? So where in the middle of a financial year do I get that money? Of course, I took keen interest in understanding government. And from then, of course, I have ended up being a person who teaches people about government and in government, and even an external adjunct faculty at the Kenya School of Government. But now I know much better that statecraft is much more difficult than what any other person would actually tell you. And that when you see politicians go around here, they know these things, especially those who've been there around there. But then they understand that mwananchi can only get other things. That's why we speak about people campaigning, whether it's in the campaign in poetry and govern in prose, or you can make it vice versa depending on what you actually, because sometimes when they start now
They're
talking,
governing in prose now.
it becomes quite difficult. So statecraft is
all this thing that we
Yes.
hear from politicians, basically, if I am to deduce what you're saying,
Yeah.
they're hoodwinking us. Sometimes they make promises that they know very well are unrealistic.
Very much so. And I think having run for office myself as well, I realize that sometimes Mwananchi does not want the technical aspect of it. And they don't care. Like, for example, I'll tell you about the Hustler Fund.
Mark, wait.
Mark, just wait. I'll tell you about the Hustler
Horse Mark, hold it.
The Hustler Fund, for example. I told a number of guys who were preparing it. Of course, I was on the Azmio side. And this thing, Mark will tell you that space is so small.
The Azmio side?
No, the political space.
Okay.
The political space is so small that you know who is where, who is doing what. It's the same people.
Yeah.
There's a lot of incest, political incest, as in who goes where and who does what. So I know the team that was working on it, and I raised up issues specifically about the Public Finance Management Act and the promise that was being made then. And I told them that I remember I was here in 2013 when Uwezo Fund was promised. Well, initially it was promised 6 billion shillings, and then there was a format they wanted to go about it. But then they met the state and they met the instruments that we have. They reverted, doing it the same way Youth Enterprise Development Fund is administered, the same way Women Enterprise Fund is administered, the same way the Disability Fund is administered. I told them that you people are not going to escape that. Because, and I was told by a very brilliant economist who told me, the law is not, as in we are not made for the law is made for us. Right. And my experience with this thing called governance, or government, whatever way you want to call it, was that, as in I've been there, and probably that forest has changed. But if it's still the same forest, they will face the same challenge. I told them they were going to face the same challenge. We are there as we speak. We are right there.
Okay.
They've tried to become creative. Yeah. Nope. They've fallen to the... So politicians deliberately, and I think that is why the change for the constitution, the call for the tweaking the constitution is one thing that is actually due. Mark and I actually used to disagree on that a lot in the past.
We'll get into that.
But I actually feel all of them.
We will get into that.
Yeah.
Mark, when you heard Arnold saying that politicians come and hoodwink us, and on the other hand, the citizen does not want to get into the details, you got agitated.
Yeah, and the reason I got agitated is this. There's a thing called the tail wagging. The tail wagging the dog. And the reason why that happens is when you are in leadership, whether as a father, as a politician, in any shape, way or form, there's always the pressure from those you lead for you to do what is populist to them. But true leadership is the ability to tell your people no, even when the most popular thing to do is to tell them yes. And this is what we lack in this country. In this country, we've got a pursuit of power for the sake of power, power by any means necessary. It is that reason that brings us to the place where we sit in a place where a politician will make very populist statements without any backup at all, promise us heaven, and we're willing to swallow it, not because that the people are unwilling to think. If you talk to any Kenyan, especially outside of an election cycle, they appear remarkably sober. They appear remarkably aware of the issues. If you ask someone who's buying unga in the supermarket about what should be done about the economy, they're crystal clear. Until our politicians get into it and play the game they usually play. So we need to do a shift. What is that shift? That there needs to be people who are in charge of thought leadership in this country. There are people who need to be in charge of pushing this country in the right direction. And I'll give you an example of a country we all know about, the United States of America. There are people like Ocasio-Cortez, who is leading the left's thought process about the economy, about the environment, etc. The problem with this country is that our leadership has refused to take that role of being thought leaders. Instead, we make populist statements that say, for example, that if you go to the stadium today, you will get accreditation
Mark,
of some sort.
Is it a populist statement or is it a lie? Can we just not try to make it sound sexy? It is a lie.
Well, here's the thing.
I mean, why do we?
No, I like the question. Is it a lie? It is only proven a lie when people attend today and come out without any accreditation. Right now where we sit, it's a populist statement. All right, and I'm not being politically
but
correct.
Populist, you're also calling it populist, you're giving it a negative connotation.
Yes, absolutely. Populist moves, let me tell you what a populist move is. A populist move is something that sounds good to the hearer but has no basis in function and reality. So, for example, what attending an event, being able to use your posterior to sit on a bench or whatever, how does that then qualify you for some form of tertiary education? It does not. And that's what makes it populist, that it undermines the meritocracy that we've built. It undermines the ability of a kid sitting in Marsabit.
So look beneath the statement. And this is the thing, that we hear the top layer, but you're not looking at what is underneath that statement. So I will give you you will get your education, whatever. At the end of the day, we're not looking at what is needed is for the seats in that stadium to be full. Period.
No, of course.
Okay?
Of course.
So now, the question is, why then, and maybe people are actually seeing that is the case. Do you really think people believe that at the end of the day, they will get a scholarship at 12 o'clock coming out of Nyayo Stadium?
You know, there's something very interesting about the human being. Never underestimate the power of stupid. And I'll tell you why. Trump won an election promising people a wall, that it would stop immigrants who have tunneled before into the United States. And 50% of the United States to this day, all right, maybe 47% now, still believe in that wall. You see, there's something about the masses. IQ and intelligence is not additive, neither is it cumulative. If you put 10 people in the room, they are not 10 points together smarter than they were when they were one. Crowds and masses generally behave as sheep. That's just the reality.
So why were you getting so agitated when Arnold was saying the same thing?
Because the reason I was agitated is he stated as though it is what should be status quo. Responsibility of any leader, even to your children, when you're walking next to the candy section of the supermarket, your ability to tell them no is what qualifies you as a leader. In Kenya, we've decided it's the opposite. That's my issue.
Is there any part of the world where politicians actually tell the truth from the get-go? When they're campaigning, they say we want to push for Brexit because this, and the other. And the downside of it is this, and the other.
Well, Brexit is a horrible example.
That is one. So give us another one. Let's go into another one.
Why is it a horrible example? It's a horrible example because Brexit was fundamentally based on lies. It was one of those right-wing... No, it was. It's an absolutely right and conservative movement.
Then I'd say it's a perfect example for this particular argument.
If it was based on lies, the same thing we're talking about now.
But was it based on lies? Was it based on lies?
If it was, then this is an example of what we're talking about.
It was based on identity politics.
Actually,
now, how is that a lie?
Actually, we need to actually ask the why question.
Yes.
Why do lies become necessary?
Because the truth hurts.
No, there is something that it's actually feeding. Because, for example, there were people, and politicians are actually people who have got a touch on the heartbeat of the society. They know what is happening down there. They know what speaks to their needs. And sometimes the needs, like Mark has actually eloquently stated, that the people of Kenya know their problems very, very well. If you speak to the people of Kenya today and tell them what is the problem from where you are, they will give you answers, by the way. Very good answers. But when it comes to making choices, the same people, not new ones. And we really cannot shift responsibility and put it on politicians also. We must also get to a place where we say, we have seen our enemy and he is us. Wow. A lot of times we really want to actually also are we assuming that people do not have agency and they do not have a voice?
They do. They do. But what is more powerful than that? What's the psychology that we are talking about with regards to people and their leadership, especially the leadership that they have elected?
I have always believed that leadership is like milk, especially the democracy is like milk. The best substance in milk comes on top. Normally, that is the cream.
That's Western thinking. That's Western thinking.
No, this is me actually just telling you
and
that.
And this is
Western
me telling
thinking
you
about what cream being the best.
Thinking, yeah, that's a Western.
Well,
way
I
of
actually
looking
come
at
from
things.
Western Kenya. I don't know the Western is talking about.
Not Western Kenya.
I have chosen to take it that way.
It's West of the United States. He took me there deliberately. It's the Western part of this particular globe, what we call the West. The reason why I say it is for a very simple reason. They think that way because when they look at society, they start with the individual. We don't. We start with the community. Then we get to the individual. Then they start with the individual, then get to the community. It's a completely different way of looking at things. And so when it comes to leadership, again, our thinking is communal. You may not think so, but it is. And that is the reason why we are likely to follow leaders even when we know these guys are wrong. We know they are wrong. But because of the way we are, call it socialized, we are inclined that in the same way, we are not inclined to tell off leaders, especially when they're a leader. Point blank that, Chief, you've got, again, it is the way we are. So when we talk about our people and the way they make decisions, let's not forget about their wiring.
It's absolutely true.
Unfortunately, you're bringing up the issue of community. Can I probably just speak to that? First of all, as you speak about community, even in places where communities make decisions like in the north of this country, you realize there's not so much of a difference. If you look elsewhere where you will say it's a little bit democratic, it's not so much of community. Let's go back down. It's so much about, number one, about mammon. Let's talk about money, the place of money and community, for example.
And I know we need to take a break.
Yes, so therefore, hold on. It's 25 minutes to 9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Happy Jamhuri Day. We're having a Jamhuri conversation in the studio with Mark Bichachi. He's a communication strategist. And Arnold Maliba, he's a public policy expert. Keep it here for more. Ndu, on the other days when it's not a public holiday, Arnold gets up and puts on a suit when he's going to teach at the Kenya School of Government. And he's speaking with English of nose. And he puts on black shoes.
He does. And when you do that, you shall, not must, you shall use Kiwi. And you know what Kiwi is doing? Kiwi is going to get us to step up and shine this month until the 7th of February. And they say if you go into any of your supermarkets and you buy a tin of the black, not the brown, the black Kiwi polish, what you do is that you get instant airtime. And I did it, and so I know it is true. And since I did it, it must be true, right? Right. *459 *5#. You're going to dial that number and send the code under the lid to that number. You get airtime or bundles instantly. And then you also get a chance to enter into this draw, which will see 36 people win 35,000 shillings worth of school fees until the 7th of February.
Each. 35,000.
So I tried last week, I didn't get it. So these two fellas are going to do it. So I'm going to bring you guys on board as well. So if they try and they don't get it for me, then you can try and get it for me.
Wow.
Me.
Are you going to school?
Don't worry about it. Well,
So I'm going by the supermarket, then I'm going to Nyayo Stadium. I'm getting scholarship there and then school fees.
And you're lined up properly.
Today it's all set.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
3, 2.
Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Heri Latifa, Muga, Madam Du, nimesalamia wote sana.
Tumepokea salamu, asante sana.
Hapa Garissa today the weather is very good, only that baridi inatupeleka mbio sana.
The baridi ni degree ngapi hapa?
Hata sijui lakini madam tunakauka sana.
If you want to follow the money trail, you've got to think like a thief to be able to catch that thief.
A slap from a friend is better than a kiss from an enemy. You remember the kiss of Judas Iscariot? Iscariot.
Yes.
Is the one that imetuweka kwa hii mashida yote na mataabu kwa sababu of that kiss. Yet the slap of Jesus Christ when he slapped those guys wenye walikuwa wanauza mboga ndani ya kanisa took them to heaven.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Jamhuri Day, there's a bit of a drizzle in Nairobi at 18, highs of 24 and lows of 16. It's mostly sunny at 16 in Nakuru, highs of 25, and we'll see highs of 22 in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 16. It's 16 and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 24 and lows of 14. We're looking at light rain in Mombasa, highs of 32 and lows of 25, and we'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Malindi at 29. Mostly cloudy conditions at 21 in Kisumu, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 26 in Kakamega, where the clouds are up at 21. It's mostly sunny at 20 in Kampala, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Dar es Salaam. It's mostly cloudy at 17 in Johannesburg, going to highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 32 in a mostly clear Lagos at 25. It's 22 and sunny in Kinshasa. We'll see highs of 30.
Spice up your life.
All right, not much traffic in the city this morning, and we're looking at free flow. Except until you get to where Arnold got stuck at the Nyeri Stadium roundabout this morning. Quite a lot of folks are getting into the city, or rather getting into the stadium, even at this hour, waiting for 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, well, something or other. So there's some traffic there, and Langata Road Junction, Aerodrome Road, connecting with the Huru Highway, but it's nothing too terrible, at least not for now. Into the CBDs where you see the most of it for now, and Landis Road, not skipping a beat at all. We'll see some traffic there for some time. All right, let us know what's going on where you are. It shouldn't be too painful today, though. Folks are probably going to get in and out of the covers, not the city. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there, and let's see how we can keep things moving this morning.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Now it's 20 minutes to 9. We continue the conversation. Eric Latif, Ndu Okosi, Timuga, Mark Bichachi, and Arnold Maliba. We are talking about state. What did you call it?
No,
Statecraft, witchcraft.
You guys were talking about...
This state happens to be a Christian state.
In word.
Many promises that have been made by the administration during the campaigns, and now we are nearing just about 90 days into the administration. Mark, have they started off on the right track?
We have to be very honest with ourselves. Of the promises so gallantly given, very few of them have been kept. Starting with the issues of unga, starting with the issues of the price of petrol and things like that. And as Arnold so aptly put it, that the act of governing is different from the act of promising. Now, unfortunately, the campaign that we had for a better part of this year was a campaign of promises with almost reckless abandon. However, there is a promise that has been kept, quote unquote, which is the Hustler Fund. The problem with it is that you save in an account you don't know, you get money from a source you don't know, and you give your M-Pesa PIN to persons you don't know. All of which constitutes, to use Ndu's level of honesty, constitutes a crime. Right? There are many things that it is doing that are run awry of our own laws around the security and the use of mobile gadgets. Now, that being said, we seem to be in a paradigm shift as how things are done in this country. And that paradigm shift is we have a government that is in a hurry, but in a hurry to do what we don't know. That's a problem. 90 days in, we don't know what is the economic philosophy. Is it saving at a time when there is a huge, very huge inflation? How do you save and face inflation at the same time? Is it spending more on the hustler fund, or is it saving 300 billion? Is it no trips, no fund, but you go 368 of you to Egypt, right? So the clarity of what this government is doing is not clear, other than the fact that if there is a crusade, it is definitely revival. What we are reviving from the dead, I do not know what it is, but we are told there is revival. So there is clarity in my mind that there is a lot of religiosity now within what we call the state. Number two, there is lack of clarity about what it is that we are doing about our economy. And number three, the promises kept in a best defined manner as hocus pocus. Yeah, it's magic. How did we get Hustler Fund?
Hustler Fund is not
nothing
magic.
short of magic.
Hustler Fund is a criminal enterprise. It's just
no.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Crime is not magic. Crime is crime. Arnold.
Yeah.
Promises.
I will still insist, and that's why probably some of us might not make it so fast in politics, because when you go to campaign, you tell people the truth, and first-hand experience. Of course, I was running for Member of Parliament, spoke to guys and told them that I do not believe in CDF. And it's not something I want to campaign about, because why should I come and tell you that I will share it fairly? Am I supposed to share it unfairly?
And you
were
telling people and asking them for their vote.
Yes,
and you wanted to be an MP.
Yes, and they thought actually, they told me, hii ni kusoma mingi sana. But I will still go back, because now a number of them are realizing, like, I made sense. We still have good conversations. You know, when you run for office, it's not an entitlement. It's you're going to ask people, try to sell yourself, and they can listen to you and tell you, wait, go to hell, or you can take it. So when we go there, we do that, of course, understanding that we will not. The people are like God sometimes. They can tell you wait, they can tell you take, and they can tell you no.
Did you take time to explain to people why it is you didn't support?
Yes, I did. Eloquently so.
Did you start with explaining, or did you tell them you don't support it and then...
I told them that, first of all, I will campaign on any other platform, because as a Member of Parliament, my co-function is about 5, and administering a fund is not. I'm not a fund manager. That is not what the Constitution says I should do. And it's not a priority. And if anyone comes in, because literally I can tell you, 100% of everybody who ran for Member of Parliament used CDF. As the only thing to actually, and I have friends in Parliament, so they tell you I just administered my CDF well, and that is why I'm here.
Yep.
So we have got a lot of CDF managers masquerading as legislators. They are not members of Parliament, because the members of Parliament have got a very clear job. It's not being done properly. That is why we've got a lot of problems. Because when we were reviewing the Constitution, we gave a lot of powers to Parliament. We were doing away with the imperial presidency and thought that a group of people having a lot of power would be the better people to actually check and balance this particular. But then they've just turned into a department of, not even an arm of government.
So, I asked this question, so to be able to understand the reasons why the decisions are being made, and so that if somebody can come and make, let's use Mark's phrase, populist statements to you, Ndu would say lie, okay. Now, the reason why somebody can come and do that is because this individual who is coming to them, either one, does not have a complete understanding of what a legislator is supposed to do, or has taken the easy route and said, look, there's this CDF which can do 1, 2, 3 with 100 million shillings that you have, and it is upon that I'm going to use it to come to people and say, look, I will give you bursary, I will build a school, I will build a road. Meanwhile, that is actually not your job. So it's very easy for you to come and tell the people that I will do this for you, knowing full well that it is not within your responsibility. Is that the reason why people are then actually supposed to say, that's why they actually say, yes, Arnold, we will vote for you, because you also don't understand what you're supposed to be doing, or you've taken the easy route?
You know, first of all, do not underestimate the intelligence of the people. The people ordinarily, if you speak to them, if you actually just cared to check the sample of feedback online, on an issue, you realize that we have got a very learned populace. They know their problems, but that is not why they vote. The reasons why people vote are so different as to why they should be voting. We are still talking about promises, right?
Yes.
There were about 9 promises that the administration, that the group that eventually won, promised. And a number of them cannot be realized. Like, for example, from where we start, in your space, you call sub-editors word technicians. Those are the gatekeepers of the words that go out, especially in a print setup.
Yes.
In government, of course, public policy people are referred to as government technicians. So as a government technician, the one thing I know is that the Hustler Fund as is today is illegal. There is no framework sustaining it. It's not been passed, it's not been gazetted, there's nothing around it. Of course, there is the room somewhere, there is the room within the executive powers to play around with that, but how long is that sustainable? So I'm hoping that by the time they do the second rollout, they will actually have put a board in place.
No, they'll be in jail.
It might not. So let me just go around that. So number one, it is 126 days since we went to polls. It is 91 days since this particular administration was sworn in. Now, I don't know how they are going to count their 100 days, but let me give them from the day when they were sworn in. Yep. So the Hustlers Fund, partly it's been done, but with the laws we've given ourselves, you cannot rush through the swearing in of PSS, the selection of coming up with the PSS, CSS, and everything else, and even setting up government. Ordinarily, in this particular country, you just need to set up at least 100 days to set up government properly, because people must go to court. There must be public participation. That is the law we gave ourselves, and we must work with it. We cannot complain about that. So you have got the Hustlers Fund, of course, partly done, not very right. There was the promise of 50%. It was said within 100 days of gender balance. That definitely we lost, both at the CS level and the PS level. We're talking about implementing the 2/3 rule. Yep. Other than the presidential memo that was done the other day, that is not implementing it. So of course, it's more than 100 days. Any good person, like all those politicians know, who has been within political spaces, would know that that cannot be done within that particular time. Giving responsibilities to the DP and the Prime CS, that was done in executive order number 1. Act on corruption. All of us know that that can be told to the birds.
Yeah, we are acting.
Anywhere in any particular
we are acting on corruption.
Freeing people.
Appoint judges rejected by Uhuru. That was done. Funds to counties. A lot of counties have, of course, I've seen counties now receiving money. Within 100 days, I don't know whether we call that okay, but I don't know. Did they want to give it after 200 days?
No. Funds to counties was about increasing. And what's it called? Unbundling more functions to the counties.
Yes.
That hasn't happened.
So how do you do that without necessarily, there's something we call the budget cycle. These politicians know it. You can't go outside of that. It is their own law, established by them for us.
But they were able to slash the budget by 300 billion.
They haven't.
They haven't, Mark. You know the policy. You know the budget cycle. You know the budget. They have not. We have not. You see, budget is actually a legislative process.
Yeah.
Have we seen it on the floor of the House?
No,
Has the supplementary budget been worked on?
No.
Not yet. So Mark is just being cheeky as usual. So then funds to counties, we've taken care of that. Lower the cost of living, not yet. Return the port of
by 1
Mombasa.
shilling of fuel went down.
No, that is 33 shillings, Ugandan shillings. So probably they did it. And then, of course, return the port operations to Mombasa. That was easily done. Of course, it's systematic, so it doesn't always work fast, but at least they acted on that. So I would give them 4 out of, if 10 was actually there.
Which are those 4?
I'm actually being very generous in doing that, because I understand
so a lot of
this.
it you're giving out of
because number one, I understand
some
that
direction has been taken.
The PSS were sworn in last Friday. As in the other Friday. So effectively, these are the AIE holders. These are the real people who work, right? I'm talking about William Ruto's PSS.
Yes.
Arnold.
Yes.
You know governance as well as I do.
Yeah.
There is no vacuum. There is no vacuum. And let me explain. You see, if you remember how different presidents have done this promises thing, Mwai Kibaki checked into government. His first 100 days, free primary education was a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yep. You look at Uhuru Kenyatta with this current constitution, with the same problems, maternity, and other things, he started doing them the first 3 months of him being in power. Listen, and this is the thing that I'm inclined to agree with Ndu without saying it. That the problem with this administration is it dated Kenyans the way we used to date in primary school, when Kate Sweat was still a thing. I will cross the oceans for you. I'll climb the mountain for you. I'll catch a bomb for you. I'll catch a grenade for you. And then when the rubber met the road, both in function and intention, those promises were never meant to be kept. The reason why I'm saying that is you find very little intention, very little desire to do anything. And this is my point. Number one, in the campaign, there was no focus on saving, right? There was no promise. I'll give you 1,000 bob and you'll save 25 shillings.
They did. It's in the manifesto.
No, in the campaign.
Yes,
you see,
there was
manifestos are not what are read by Kenyan people. Let's just be honest.
It was, and but I remember William actually speaking repeatedly.
Listen, there is no hustler who signed on to the hustler movement expecting to save money. That expectation was not there.
You are not a hustler. How did you know?
No, because competition research.
Necessary.
So, listen, the truth is that there has been a paradigm shift between the promises that were made and the reality that Kenyans are living. And if we're going to give an honest scorecard of those 100 days, that is the reality, because there has been no focus on lowering the cost of fuel. There has been no focus on lowering the cost of unga. That is the market truth.
Well, there's focus on lowering the cost of fuel. I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why I say there's a focus in lowering. Much as the president said we are going to remove the subsidy, that fund that we contribute to when we're buying a liter of fuel, has not been removed. It's still in effect, even this month, it's still being applied. There is money that's actually going to still be used in the subsidy.
Yes.
Every liter of diesel is getting
subsidized.
Some subsidy. Same thing is happening to kerosene. A little bit of it was also used in this particular month for petrol. So it's still there. So as they move towards this, the whole thing of him saying, we're going to scrap this subsidy didn't come to pass. Because it can't come to pass just like that.
Is there a term limit on a promise? And I think I remember, it just came into my mind now. I remember when we were in school, and there was this sandwich shop that opened, and all of us were making noise and told my mother, you must take us here. My mother promised, and she said, okay, when you're on holiday, I will take you and I will buy you what you want. We waited. The summer holiday was 3 months. We waited. I won't forget, school opened on the 3rd of September. 2nd of September, like clockwork. My mother put us in the car. We went to the sandwich shop. Did she break her promise?
No.
She did not. So is there a term limit? Is there a term limit on promises?
No.
So can we say that in 100 days, if these things that they have said that they were going to do, they have not yet done, and we've heard the deputy president say, we came into office and we found that there was nothing in the coffers. We said, look, give us time. We found this economy in a shambles. We found things in a mess up and down. So for me, who wants to say things like, if you tell people to come to a stadium and you will give them a tertiary education, I can see the difference in that, between that and somebody telling me that they're going to rejig the economy and bring down the cost of living. It's a fundamental difference in the two of those things that are being said.
Actually, first of all, let's actually be very clear. The president did not say that anyone will get accreditation here. The president said that all of you who will come to Nyeri Stadium will get a course. That is a man with a PhD. He knows exactly what he said. He said, whoever comes there will get a course. Getting a course could be anything, including the ones that, remember when we were young, there used to be that correspondence, that Bible correspondence course. The only thing I know is that the university... Yes. He said you will find a course.
No.
But that say... that be,
he used to post. And then it would come.
Yeah, they will actually get a pamphlet or something, and then they will actually get it posted to them. Who knows? He said a course. He didn't say a certificate. He didn't say anything. But Ndu has said something that I need to actually talk to. That, first of all, my only problem is that the guys promised 100 days, knowing too well that the mechanics of setting up government
were not in place.
Are difficult.
Are going to take 100 days.
Quite, even more.
More than 100 days.
Because the judiciary has actually been very lenient and allowed them, even though you feel like they've actually held on, they've been very lenient. Otherwise, if you've not taken care of their third, 27.8 of Article 27.8 of the Constitution, for example, the truth is that we will still be in court over that.
Yeah.
So it's possible to go beyond 100 days. Two, a lot of the promises they've made touch on budgeting. Our budget, the appropriation process is legislated. Yeah. We do not yet have the supplementary budget passed by this particular parliament. Yeah. This parliament is not even properly constituted. As they said, they are not even competent yet. They still need a lot of teaching and capacity building to understand what they should be doing.
They've not come to you.
Leave alone that. They don't want. You know, Shimiwa, the other thing is this, that even for the first time, and I know I need to say this, that even the cabinet, I know normally we do not do a lot of capacity building for cabinet, but you realize somebody in trade is talking about sports and somebody in public service is talking about state on the other side. It's actually like not even a marketplace. It's a congregation of mad people who do not necessarily know what they are doing. Because, and knowing too well how government is territorial, right?
Yes, very territorial.
So if you find any PS encroaching on the other person's space, deep down government, it's so territorial. But I need to finish by saying this before it comes in. That there is this false equivalence between Kenya and Korea, South Korea. That dichotomizing Kenya and Korea, we were not at the frontier of the Cold War. The US did not pack here the way it packed in the US, in South Korea. Yeah. The world did not move. That was not a battlefront. We were not. We cannot be the same.
Pause. You will continue. We continue the conversations in the next hour. It's 9 a.m. Good morning.
Spice up your life.
Happy 59th Jamhuri Day celebrations. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Now, a number of Nairobi expressway entrances and exits will be temporarily closed as the nation commemorates the 59th Jamhuri Day celebrations at the Nyeri National Stadium. According to a statement from the Moja Expressway Company, the roads will be closed from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Drivers travelling from Lolongo to Westlands are advised to exit at Capital Centre, join the Nairobi Expressway at Haile Selassie. Motorists travelling from Westlands to Mlolongo should exit the expressway at Haile Selassie or join at Capital Centre. The entrance to Haile Selassie will remain closed. The Jamhuri Day celebrations will be taking place at the Nyeri National Stadium. We are stationed there. Will be bringing you the very latest in our subsequent news bulletin. Now, Nelly Cheboy, who in 2019 quit a lucrative software engineering job in Chicago to create computer labs for Kenya school children, is the 2022 CNN Hero of the Year. Online voters selected her from among this year's top 10 CNN heroes. Cheboy's non-profit TechLit Africa has provided thousands of students across rural Kenya with access to donated upcycled computers and the chance at a brighter future. Cheboy accepted the award with her mother, who she said worked really hard to educate them. At the beginning of her acceptance speech, Cheboy and her mother sang a song on stage that she explained had a special meaning when she was growing up listening.
And now, the 2022 CNN Hero of the Year is Nelly Cheboy.
And now, in front of the whole world, I want to sing you this song one more time. Mkono wangu mdogo we haiwezi kufanya kazi, nikikuwa mkubwa we nitakusaidia, utabu muzika. Really? So, my dear mom only made it to 6th grade. She can barely read and write. She has 4 daughters and she worked really hard to educate us. Schools in Kenya are very expensive. And so when she comes home, I see how exhausted she is. And I sing to her this song that says, my hands are so tiny, I cannot help you, but when I grow up, I'm going to show you the world. And then she's like, oh, you're so cute, right?
And so cute it is, and congratulations to Nelly Cheboy for a job well done. Now, tourism stakeholders in Mombasa have welcomed the introduction of Mombasa Zanzibar flights by the Merifly Air Service. The new service has been lauded as a boost to the tourism sector. The new route connecting the coastal city of Mombasa and the island of Zanzibar was a move in the right direction as Kenya's tourism eyes full recovery following the easing of travel restrictions in the wake of the devastating COVID-19 pandemic. The new flight intends to serve people of both countries, including international guests who want to sample the various attractions in the two destinations which have similar characteristics.
So this is a very welcome development because it will promote business between Mombasa and Zanzibar and also tourism because Mombasa and Zanzibar are both tourist destinations. And it was unfortunate that we didn't have a direct flight between Mombasa and Zanzibar. Many of the tourists that are going to Zanzibar now will prefer coming to Kenya for the game drives. And therefore this flight will promote tourism not only for Mombasa but also for Zanzibar, which is like twin islands in this Indian Ocean region.
And President Joe Biden this week will announce U.S. support for the African Union's admission to the G20 group of the world's largest economies as a permanent member. Biden will make the announcement during the U.S.-Africa Leaders Summit in Washington, when Biden will meet presidents of African countries. This comes after requests from African Union Chair and Senegalese President Macky Sall and South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. South Africa is the only G20 member from Africa. The AU is made up of 55 member states. This is Newswire. Dennis Asado, good morning.
Today's Newswire is powered by Samsung Galaxy Buds 2 Pro. Listen to crisp and clear sounds while on the go.
All right, looking into the CBD, we're not going to see much of that. We see the action around Nyayo Stadium, and that's about the size of it for today. Aerodrome coming off Langata Road and then touching on Lusaka Road a little bit there. That's where we'll see it. Jogo Road for first time in a long time, not much. And Landis Road, now we're looking at clear movement into the city and then joining on Haile Selassie. We're not going to have that problem today. Let's see what happens later on in the morning, getting closer to the ceremony at the Nyayo Stadium and then thereafter. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, talk to us there. Let's keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The only way to start
Day,
your...
6 minutes after 9 on the 12th day of December 2022. Welcome to the final hour of the Situation Room today. Our guests this morning, Mark Bichachi, communication strategist, and Arnold Maliba. He's a public policy expert. Gentlemen, have you heard about the Santam real estate project in Vipingo development? You heard about that?
Yeah.
And the entire expanse of that entire project. They have started with the residential. They started by doing the getting the water from the ocean and desalinating it and then putting it into use. And then they've put up 500 units, which are apartments and villas. Apartments are from studio 1, 2, 3 bedroom, and then the villas are 3 bedroom detached. And now they are going into phase 2. And they're saying, actually, if you have about 245,000 shillings, which you can put there as a deposit, you start the journey towards owning this particular piece of property. Dependable developer, known where they are, and it's a way to go. If you'd like to get more details about this, SMS the word Vipingo to 22365. That's Vipingo 22365. CT Muga, using the Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra with S Pen. How's the proverb?
I do actually.
Yeah? Tab S8 Ultra, there's S Pen. Samsung Galaxy.
Hizo S ni nyingi.
Yes, ndio.
Subsidy has an S. Pen has an S.
Samsung
has an S.
Galaxy has an S.
S Pen.
Situation room has an S. Okay. Nobody holds a cow by its horns while another is milking it.
Nobody holds a cow by its horns while another is milking it. Not another cow milking.
Another body.
Another person.
That's, see, there is how it was written, and then there is how it is meant. No one holds a cow by its horns while another person is milking it.
So that's a body.
Yes, exactly. I'm just giving it a little more life.
Oh, voila.
I'm throwing in a little oomph to the noun. Okay? Yes. But the way it is written, they don't add somebody. They just said while.
Another, could be another cow holding it, another cow being milked,
another mutu,
another cow's horn being held.
These grammar lessons that you people are determined to give me.
But the,
I'm just letting you know
the question is that proverb is so complicated for those of us who've never milked a cow. It's very complicated.
Have you ever drunk
milk? It comes in as a lesson as well.
If you've drank milk, you have therefore milked a cow.
But, I don't know. But you see, Muga must tell us what cow he's speaking about, because there are a lot of cows. A whale, for example, a female whale is a cow. It doesn't have horns. So it's important to...
A female pig is a sow.
Let me tell you. On this proverb, I think
the one that has horns. Okay, let's start with there's cow's horns. Okay, now if a whale has horns and you're milking a whale, please don't hold the horns.
but also we know very many cows that also don't have horns.
One would ask, how
you know,
do you
this
milk a
thing
whale?
is actually simpler than gentleman and lady you think. Well, you just write your own proverbs.
Even an elephant. An elephant has
is a cow.
has no horns. It has got tusks.
Doesn't have horns.
This
female elephant is a cow.
Cow, whale, pig. Write your own proverbs. And then throw all these things that you want in it.
The thing about a proverb is it must be relatable. You've decided to take us to the world of milking. My friend. So, the only
all right.
milking we know is we milk a packet, and it's over and you squeeze it.
Wow. Clearly.
Mark.
We've moved from the cow to the packet.
Okay.
Let's move into this hour. Let's focus on what the president has recently done, which is sending a memo to the speakers of parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate. And he says, he is taking an unprecedented move, informed by the wisdom of the Supreme Court that a president cannot initiate constitutional amendments. And he says, I have some ideas which I'd like to bring to your attention, which then you can maybe take to your assemblies and let them be discussed. And he's talking about, make a constitutional amendment to create an office and a structure for the official opposition. I have some amendments in legislation to entrench and have a constituency development fund, a Senate oversight fund, and the other one is NGAF, the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, entrenched into our laws and our constitution. What's the other proposal?
The 2/3?
Yes, let's see how we can create a formula in the constitution that allows us to nominate members into the National Assembly the same way we are nominating members into the Senate to meet the 2/3 gender principle, and also in the other one, the county assemblies. So he's basically saying, how about, and he's coming up with specific ideas that he's taking to Parliament. Is that a good or a bad thing? When you see now the president saying, I've been thinking about this thing, and maybe we could, take this particular direction.
It's interesting that some of us were very much pro BBI, and I think I sat here and we had many conversations about this. The thing is this, that sometimes in this country, the medicine is good, but we don't like the doctor. And therefore, we will not take the medicine. Now, we've gotten to the point that the people who didn't want the medicine because of the doctor are prescribing the same medicine to the country. Now, there are some ideas there that need to be taken seriously. Number one, in my view, is the idea of legitimizing not the leader of opposition, but the people who are in opposition. There is a certain sense that this country has that if you are on one side of the rift, then your representation, your ideology, and what you believed in when you went into the ballot is ignored simply because your ideas did not meet the threshold of majority. Now, is that an important discussion to have? Yes, it is. There's other discussion that is very important. We bequeathed ourselves a constitution that says our parliament is not even legally well constituted unless we meet the 2/3 gender rule. Now, ever since we promulgated the constitution, parliament has consistently failed at meeting this particular rule. In fact, to the end where Maraga wrote a letter to the president saying, dissolve this thing, and we've not had the solution. However, we still need to look at how many people we will load onto the National Assembly. Can we have a National Assembly that is going to have 400 odd people, 3/4 of whom will never say a word in parliament? Is that the way to go? So the issue is this, that this for me is a revival of BBI. Simply because there is a need in this country to address certain issues. So on that, I agree with the president. The issue that is there is that some of those solutions being prescribed will lead to an even bigger government, and unfortunately, we will not get value for money. There are so many MPs, over 100 MPs in the last 5 years, who said nothing in the Hansard. Now, those who said nothing in the Hansard,
That's
some
on
of them
the floor
got,
of the House,
yes,
in plenary.
Yes, in plenary.
They participate in committees and committee meetings.
But my dear brother, have you ever seen that plenary? How many people are usually there?
Not many.
Okay.
But they don't even attend.
That's my point.
Not many.
That's my point. You see, the problem with the Kenyan parliament, and Arnold had begun talking about this, Kenyan parliament has become an extension of the executive. It does not do oversight. And the other thing that they want to do is abandon oversight and go back to CDF. I am one of those people who believes that CDF should not exist. The reason why we have ugatuzi, why we have governors, supersedes the need for CDF. And I know this is unpopular, but give us that 100 million to governors. Let them do what they're supposed to do. Take more money out of the executive at the national level and give it to the executive at the county level, and let the people elect people who they think have executive know-how to manage those funds, because the qualification of an MP by design is different from the qualification of a governor, as much as they fake their degrees. That very qualification tells you that the people who wrote the constitution and what we bequeathed ourselves is we agreed an MP can represent us without education. Why? Because some of us don't have education. But you cannot then bequeath that MP 100 million shillings to run at the chagrin of not being able to go to parliament and hold oversight over the government.
City wants to react. Okay, I propose that we go through these things this way. All right. So there are 4 issues. There is gender. There is CDF, ANGAF, and the Senate Fund. All right. There is Musalia Mudavadi addressing Parliament. Okay, parliamentary oversight of the executive, right? And then there's a final one, which is the opposition. Okay, so now that we are at that point of the affirmative action and the CDF and the Senate Fund, let's deal with that as an issue. CT,
you know
what's your view on that?
My view is simply this. I hear what Mark is saying. Even at the level of it being theoretical, it's faulty. It's faulty in this sense. The thing that I have seen with our devolved units is that the bulk of the governors we have do not have the capacity to actually govern. They may be good politicians, people may even like them, but they actually don't know what to do with the position they have. And that is shown by the mismanagement, not my thinking. What the Auditor General presents, the number of cases with the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, they're just explaining where the money went, how to, just basic. Now, Mark is saying we give them more money.
No, but you see...
The money they have...
But the function, you see, listen, if you hire an accountant in your firm and you went through the process of hiring them and they're a useless accountant, the function of the office is not made useless by the owner. The vision of having a governor is that they are capable of doing that. Unfortunately, the people who hire governors are... I don't want to say that word. Yes, they're bad recruiters. But those same people who are bad recruiters, you do not solve the problem of bad recruiting by letting them then choose MPs who are also executive of 100 million, because those same MPs have had cases.
Eric,
Yes,
City here said that when I said that democracy is like milk,
yes,
that is Western thinking. He then comes back and exemplifies what I would still call Western thinking. People elect people they think that they share values with. When the nation chose to go the hustler way, a majority of them, even if it's a simple majority, related at value level with them. Let's go back to CDF.
I wish it were that
I have challenged CDF because I know you can do a technical paper that relates to the death of Parliament to CDF. Because you see, when we did restructuring of our governance, we did away with imperial presidency. And we believed that Parliament, by definition, is a reflection of the people. That when you see Parliament, normally the definition of Parliament would be that it's the manifestation of people as a government.
Yep.
When you look at Parliament, you can see the manifestation of the people as a government. And we gave them a lot of powers, knowing too well that we are doing away with places where individuals exist and that Parliament will do much better. What we are shying away from saying is that a lot of the changes we want to do are as a result of the failure of Parliament. What is the origin of CDF? We tried CDF. CDF for us was a pilot project. If you look at the Naivasha transcripts and even during the Bomas process, a lot of it, CDF was used as a pilot project to sell devolution, that it could work. It was not supposed to stay there forever. Once you have come to a sunset of a policy, you change. But I can tell you that CDF has bastardized Parliament. We speak about a third of our budget going to waste, being stolen, some just being misused and everything else. That is the function of Parliament. Yeah. But because the voter has now been used, however much you say that governors will steal money, have you ever seen anyone jailed because of CDF? In any day?
No, I haven't actually.
Do you know why?
No,
because Parliament gives, as in allocates budget. The Parliament we have is no longer a late endorser to the budget-making process. Parliament, as we have it now, is a budget-making body, yes, an active one. Budget goes to Parliament 3 times before it even gets to the people. So they are part and parcel of it. So they allocate money. Why we separate functions is because you cannot audit yourself. I can tell you 100%, if I had money and I chose that these I will use as fuel, and somehow you asked me for tea and I gave you tea when we meet out there, I will explain to myself and I will understand. I therefore cannot audit myself. So, because the same Parliament that allocates itself budget, and then it is supposed to audit itself. Remember that the Office of the Auditor General is an appendage of Parliament. You cannot do oversight without Parliament. These guys have deliberately ensured that particular office doesn't have sufficient resources, doesn't have enough staff. It's always frustrated.
And it's always auditing books 3 years behind.
Yes, that's what I'm telling you, it's late. Deliberately, on Parliament's doing. So parliamentarians have stopped being parliamentarians and they have chosen, and like I told you, 100% of the parliamentarians we have are just CDF managers masquerading as legislators.
And you're blaming this on CDF?
And yes, it is CDF because the shortest way of going to parliament is promising heaven through CDF or just being an MP and running CDF so well. If you got them in spaces where they actually are very free to speak, they will tell you that the key to parliament is CDF. And you know, the concept of representation is actually a bigger concept, quite difficult to explain here in one sitting. It's a bigger thing. Legislation is so big, a lot of these problems. 5 times Parliament threw out any legislation on Article 27.8 and Article 100. Not worked on until this particular time as we speak. Even as we speak about gender, we've not spoken about the SIGs, the 5 groups in Article 100. Of course, women, youth, persons with disabilities, marginalized, and the minorities. We have not dealt with them. Even as we talk about 27.8, we are not talking about this other group also. That is a challenge.
So Arnold, let me just pause you there because there's a point you're making that I don't want to be lost.
Yeah.
Part of the reason parliamentarians do not participate in parliament and actively do legislation is because it is more valuable for them to go to the counties and manage CDF than it is to sit in parliament and actually do their work. And the reason why every time we watch TV, parliament is empty is because, and I can tell you for a fact, MPs have a seat in their CDF headquarters, and what they do is they make sure they are seen when bursaries are being given out. They make sure they are seen when a building is being done, and
a road is being gravelled.
And we even have their pictures next to these buildings. Now, for as long as CDF exists, let me tell
Parliament
you,
will never be Parliament.
Let me read an excerpt of what the memo by the president said. All right? He said, in my days in Parliament, I served when there was no CDF and also served when there was CDF. Localized problems often demand expeditious local interventions. CDF empowers legislators to perform their function of representation more effectively by keeping them in touch with the pulse of their constituencies. The CDF also makes the constituency a forum for continuous engagement on critical issues and effective mobilization to solve problems in the spirit of collective action. Now, my translation of that is basically saying the same thing that you're saying, Mark. The MP is visible on the ground. Visible on the ground, number one, getting feedback from the constituents on what do you people want? What are the issues? Where are your pain points? And how can I effectively begin the journey of solving that issue? Not by being the manager, but by being a patron of the CDF. That's what I... Being a patron of the CDF and channeling the funds towards the solution. 1, representation. It's not enough. The next thing that I need to do is go back to Parliament and in that budget and make sure that now money for roads comes, money for power comes, money for this and the other comes.
Through CDF?
Not through CDF, but Eric, through legislation and representation.
Let me ask you a question. Let's just be very logical.
Yes.
As an MP, you have control and direct input on 3 trillion shillings. Okay?
Yes.
The mental acuity, strength, and focus that is required to effectively allocate 3 trillion shillings is a lot.
Yes.
If you manage that well, it will be a matter of course that you will not need 100 million because you've properly allocated 3 trillion.
Yes.
But I will tell you the problem with the human mind. If you give me a mountain I cannot swallow, I will take a small hill I can climb. So let me explain to you. Our MPs have no clue what is happening in 3 trillion. They want to struggle with 100 million because it is easier to manage.
I want to put it the other way around. The people, the citizens, will not listen to an MP who comes and says we've allocated X amount of money which will go to the Kenya Roads Board, and then the Kenya Roads Board will give that money to the Kenya Rural Roads Authority, and the Kenya Rural Roads Authority will come and do the road. Or we've allocated X amount of money that will go to the Ministry of Interior. The Ministry of Interior will put that money into the police service. The police service will allocate money to come and build a police station or a gate to a police station.
What Eric is saying,
they will see directly. Can you start? Can we begin by seeing, all right, there's a gate to the school. There's a fence to the police station. What Mark is saying,
and we do not want to accept, is that CDF is a distraction.
Yes.
And that if MPs were to properly do legislation and oversight, they will be so busy, they will not even have a weekend to go to the constituency so easily. When we talk about 3 trillion.
So they will not do representation.
I have had an opportunity to actually sit on boards and work within government spaces. Absorbing as little as 100 million, leave alone a billion. The instruments, the tools, and the processes that are required to absorb 100 million in implementation are so tedious that is why you hear a lot of departments wanarudisha pesa.
The absorption rate is at 20%.
And that is why a lot of money is spent badly between April
and
July. Because now people want to allocate money, they don't want to get to take back money treasury. Because there's a penalty when you take back money. Then the next budget we give you, we will do less.
But I have to ask this question: what then are we talking about here? Are we talking about a system we put in place? You said it was experimental, that has outlived its time. Are we talking about the capacity for the individuals who are elected to actually do what is required of them? Are we talking about the character of the individuals that we see evolving and them becoming what they are? What really are we talking about?
Now, when you're doing critical fact analysis, you just have to ask, I saw that 5 times. So that. The reason people do things is not always the first answer they give. They don't sometimes even don't know that is
no.
Not considered.
It's not considered. So critical fact analysis. So let's just ask, why do MPs need CDF?
So that they can.
You will say that so that they can actually do development on the ground. And then so that by the time you get to the 5th, so that you get the real reason. Yes. And that is a politics of laziness where MPs do not want to do their job.
Yes.
So we are saying, let's do critical fact analysis. And Parliament is not doing its job. As a nation, we are in the shit we are in because Parliament has refused to do its job.
So
why?
And
Honourable member, that's unparliamentary language.
Right. And I think the question here
is a situation
we are in the quagmire that we are in.
I think the conversations, because we say these are really important conversations to have. Yeah. And also, if we look at that critical thinking, a lot of them, we talk about establishment conversation, is that as we establish the conversation, the reason then why we are doing that is to say we've pointed the arrow at the problem. That must offshoot towards the solution. Now, we know that we're in the doldrums. It is clear from what you're saying that certain things are happening so that other things can happen. Yeah. For me, it's always been that a lot of people are looking for longevity of the situation, political expediency, for them to remain at the center of power, etc., etc.
Power for the sake of power.
Because there comes a lot of rewards, monetary, etc. But if we're saying that we're looking towards a progressive government, if we're looking towards progressive development, that there are certain things then that must happen. And the question is right now, in what direction must we go? Who oversights the oversighters? The overseers?
Let me offer first an understanding of the problem Kenya finds itself in. There's a little Bible story that I find fantastic. This woman is bent over backwards, right? She's so bent, she sees the world upside down.
Which Bible are we talking about?
No, you remember the bent woman? She was bent over?
I'm yanking your crack.
Yes.
Please go ahead.
So this woman is in the presence of Jesus, God himself. She never asked once to be healed. Because sometimes you can be so bent that you think your bent status is normal. And that's a problem with this country. We have been so bent as a society. Now, let's talk about the public. We have been so bent that our expectation of any leader, political or otherwise, is for them to offer not mental solutions, not ideas, not policies, not philosophies, but to consistently contribute to our chama, our funeral,
as
our
that
wedding.
Were enough.
Right. So that's the society we are in. Now, CDF to the public is, quote unquote, an easier route to government resources. But what is the trade-off? The trade-off, what we are saying, is that you cannot do CDF and do parliament at the same time. One must suffer. You know, this is like serving mammon or serving the people. These politicians are serving mammon, right? And unfortunately, the people are used to that cocaine drip, 10,000 for fees and whatever. What needs to happen is we need to win the people of Kenya from the dependency of politicians for our livelihood to dependency on policy, ideas, philosophies,
and the implementation
the implementation of the same. Yeah. Because I can promise you, if your parliamentarian took time and sat in those committees, which they don't, they only show up for sitting allowance, they sign that book, and they disappear halfway through the conversation. They do not do those things because they do not affect how they're elected, and that's a problem. But if your MP today sat through committees, sat through parliament, and made sure,
read documents.
Yes, and read documents and made sure that government policy direction and implementation is done, none of us would need CDF.
People are not fair.
Who is supposed to supervise the supervisor?
This is my question.
The people.
Who oversees the
Precisely.
overseers?
Article 1.
Yes. How do you get the people to do their job? Because the MPs clearly are not doing theirs.
Actually, by doing what we are doing here, and probably we need to go back. And for those of us who actually are on this particular side of the debate on CDF, we need to tell people that, first of all, CDF offends the Constitution.
How?
The principle of separation of powers.
Yes.
Number 2.
You can't be executive and legislative at the same time.
Number 2.
In this country, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah, upside
Doesn't
down.
make it right.
Number 2, CDF, if you think MPs, if you think governors are corrupt, you have never looked into the books of CDF.
Yep.
And just realize that no one has ever been jailed for misusing CDF. I was actually on that point and I don't want to lose it, because the person who gives the budget is the same person who does oversight. You know what they do? They pardon themselves. They know how to creatively account for it. It's only in CDF where you are allowed to have what we call partisan staff. MPs have got partisan staff, and they really don't care about that. The other reason is this, that CDF has become a trap, that the executive has all along known that CDF is a petty cash kitty for members of parliament. Do you know that the people on the ground do not know the difference between MP's own money and CDF? You have got a funeral, an MP writes you a check of 10,000 shillings, but what is actually said, Mheshimiwa ameleta hii pesa, people do not differentiate the difference.
Yeah.
It's become a trap in that the executive knows that these people use CDF badly. So every time you start opening up your mouth and criticizing government and being a member of parliament, now when you remember you're supposed to be a member of parliament and you're doing legislation and you're doing oversight, that file is actually pulled and you are reminded. You see this? As in, we have seen that within the Jubilee administration. William Ruto was part and parcel of that administration, and he doesn't look like he might be different from his brother. He's going to do the same thing. It's a trap. But finally, MPs have refused to account on CDF. Just like I'm telling you, all of us know that CDF is misused, it's abused and done everything around.
I don't know. I'm waiting for Auditor General report. I'm waiting for EACC.
I'm waiting for
EACC.
Okay, let's say I agree with you. Let's say I agree with you.
Yeah.
The two of you have declared that you are Azimio supporters. You probably still are. What guarantee do we
Azimio does
have?
not consider me as one of their own.
Yes,
They refused.
What do you then offer as a guarantee that if Azimio was in, we would have a different scenario?
But you see,
it will not be different.
But
would have had
I've never heard him saying whataboutism. Listen, this is not an Azimio standpoint, okay? And let me explain to you. Number one, my independence of thought tells me we need to legitimize opposition. On that, I agree with the president 100%. It's way overdue. Let's change the constitution. Let's legitimize opposition politics in this country. 100%. I am also 100%.
Legitimize it or give it a legitimate
Actually,
structure.
as Mark builds on that, I know it is supposed to be a different point, Mark,
Give
when you
it
talk about
legitimate
opposition.
structure and legitimize.
Eric spoke about
nitpicking.
taking issue by issue, right? So
Let's
I'll tell
take
you,
a break.
the functions that we really are trying to now, in Mark's words, to legitimize opposition to handle is actually the function the constitution makers gave to parliament.
Yes.
And parliament failed on that. The failure of parliament, and we are not, when we are doing diagnostics, we must actually say that it is CDF that ensured that parliament does not play that particular role.
Yeah.
And that is why now we are trying to become creative.
Let's take a break. Good. 23 minutes to 9. Let's take a traffic break. If you are trying to approach, we can tell them, approaching Nyayo
Just
Stadium,
just
forget
wait a
it.
little bit.
If you're on the expressway and you're getting Nyayo Stadium, forget it.
about it.
If you're going to Thika, forget it. If you're going to Nakuru, forget it. If you're going to Mombasa, forget it. Just stay at home
Very good.
and listen to the situation room. But Ndu will give you the actual details shortly. And you tell them about, when you come back, you'll tell them about the buds, the Samsung Galaxy.
I'll do that.
Bud 5 Pro. It's called Bud 2.
2.
Yeah.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Yolanda Mulwa, DJ Absolute. When the gang is together. Got the sugar, got the spice.
Yorada.
Yes.
I have missed you like hot hamburgers. Eh?
Like hot hamburgers.
You know, bad boys give more money than you can count.
Hey, bad boys give more money than you can count. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock, but if I were you, I'd tune in to
Sugar and Spice only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So if you say it's on, then it's on.
Yeah. Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 24. We'll see highs of 25 in Nakuru. And it's 18 and cloudy in Nyeri, going to highs of 22. We'll see highs of 24 in a sunny Eldoret. It's mostly cloudy at 28 in Mombasa. And we're looking at light rain at 30 in Malindi. It's 23 and mostly cloudy in Kisumu. And we'll see highs of 27 in Kakamega, 22 and cloudy conditions in Kampala, and the rain keeps coming down in Dar es Salaam at 30. It's now raining in Johannesburg at 18, and it's 25 and sunny in Lagos, 24 and sunny conditions in Kinshasa. Looking out into a sunny Beijing Monday afternoon, it's 3 degrees, going to highs of 5, and it's -1 and cloudy in Paris. Snowstorm as well in London at 0 and 1 degree Sunday night in New York. Coming into Monday, highs of 5 and lows of -1. Those things that Eric said, are you going to Nyayo? Forget about it. You're going to be stuck at least until 11 o'clock. Then, Aerodrome, Langata Road, coming off of the city centre in that general area. It looks like it's getting packed up already. Everywhere else, you should be all right. Through the morning, talk to us, SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
So we're going to read the
Mornings
two things
done right.
92 points. The transition to the presidential system, coupled with the exclusion of presidential candidates from simultaneously contesting parliamentary seats in a general election, created a novel political paradigm. The consequence is that the overall political leader of the minority side is effectively excluded from meaningful political participation and left to rely on the minority house leaderships to perform the function of oversight. No sound rationale has been proffered to adequately allay the sense that this anomaly is the result of a monumental oversight. I believe the idea of official opposition above and beyond mere minority parliamentary leadership makes tremendous sense in terms of institutionalizing governance, strengthening oversight, and deepening democracy. The other point is about it is ill-considered to interpret the rigid separation of powers established under the Constitution as the effective insulation of various institutions and organs of government from oversight and accountability. I believe that our government will become more responsive, accountable, effective when it's subjected to rigorous oversight. There is tremendous benefit in experiencing checks and balances in the course of policy implementation. For these reasons, I recommend and request that Parliament considers formulating a mechanism within its standing orders to facilitate participation of Cabinet Secretaries and the Chief Administrative Secretaries in parliamentary proceedings, particularly by responding to questions raised by MPs. Now, those two issues. One, about acknowledging that the biggest loser in a general election actually commands a lot of political power. even on the people who are elected, who then end up being in a minority side. And that then them being outside Parliament effectively locks them out from that role that they ought to be playing, the role that the millions of Kenyans have given this particular individual. Second is the executive has ministers, and members of Parliament feel that they do not get the answers directly from the ministers, so the ministers should come to House and answer questions. Your take on those two, Arnold?
My only problem with how he looks at it is that at least he's not expressly said so, but I feel like everyone says that we are going to use the parliamentary route. What very could be the functions of office of the official opposition, leader of official opposition? Those functions touch on the functions of parliament.
Yeah.
Article 55 of the Constitution says that you can't do that if you can't do that through a parliamentary process. You will have to go through the popular initiative. The same process he didn't want to take us through. We have not even weaned ourselves of the effects of the just concluded elections. We were in campaigns for 5 years. Now he's actually just instituting another process. Is that what is necessary? Because there's the place of time and places when it comes to governance. As of now and here, is that really what we need? Because, politicians, especially in our situation, have perfected the art of keeping us on the run. So we are always in a spin. You don't remember your own needs. Like, for example, I asked a few guys who are like, we will be going out on the streets and demonstrating so that Cherera is reinstated. And asked them, you've spoken about the cost of living being so high, you can't afford food the way you used to, you've never gone to the street. Your children were sent home, you never went to the streets. You have had all those problems that affect you directly, but you want to go to the streets because you want to reinstate Cherera. It is not because you love her. It's only because a politician has said that let us go, or has suggested. So are you doing it for yourself or you're doing it for somebody else? They have realized that it's easy to put us on a spin and we can run around that. The president has done well, and I think in Mark's words, let me use his own words. Mark spoke about thought leadership. He's initiated, and I'm hoping that he doesn't want us to do it right away. He's initiated the process. He wants us to have that particular conversation. But does the president really have goodwill on some of these issues? That's where we start. I can only gauge that and respond to that from what he has done so far. What stopped the president from, for example, from fulfilling his own promise on 2/3 gender rule? What stopped him?
His was actually 50.
He said 50%, as in even meeting that, he just barely met it at the cabinet level.
Yep.
In the principal secretaries, I do not know whether my numbers are wrong or I'm the one who got it wrong in the quantitative techniques.
No, they are wrong.
Is that at the PS level, they didn't get it.
11 is 2/3.
11 out of 49 is 2/3.
Yes.
Okay. Well, your quantitative techniques class must have been a very interesting one. So I'm struggling to understand. I talked about QT. Mathematics has got a way of putting on a lot of cloth, and you don't avoid it. In elementary education, it's mathematics. It shows up as calculus, statistics.
Algebra.
As in, it shows up in very many forms.
Ways, yes.
QT and everything else. And especially when it comes to QT, it becomes very, very stubborn. Anyway, so my point is that there's nothing that stopped the president, for example, from just addressing Article 27(8), both at the PS level and at the CS level. So even as he eloquently writes this particular memo to Parliament, it's a good letter, but he doesn't look like he really means it.
He's not showing leadership.
He is not showing leadership.
Okay.
So on all these other issues, even as they do, a number of the issues they suggest, by the way, and that is why the Right Honourable Prime Minister has said, respect the BBI ruling. Because there's just something about the BBI ruling. Like, I'll tell you this free of charge. Whether parliamentarians sit in Washington or in space to try and come up with a formula that can put BBI, or rather align it with the Constitution, if they have not read the BBI ruling, as in they don't need any other ruling, leave alone the one done by the Supreme Court, they just need to read the BBI ruling, and they will realize that you cannot align CDF into the Constitution, for example. Whatever the president is proposing, and I have seen a number of them say, we will do it through parliamentary process. This judiciary they are in love with, we'll actually just remind them. We stop them. They're not going to win this particular war. And I think that there are things that are necessary at the moment. Education has gone so high. The president has, as in the cost of education has gone. And what are they telling us? That because that if we do away, have you ever realized how mad some policies actually are? Sometimes you sit back and you want to ask yourself, as in, do I live in a separate universe? So if you close boarding schools, you say that they make the cost of education high. The people who are sending their children there have not complained. There are reasons to why they take them there. Is that how you reduce the cost of education, for example? Have we taken care of? Have we put in place tools and?
So wait, do you want ministers to answer questions on the floor of the House or not?
That is not the problem. The problem is Parliament should just be Parliament. They will take care of these problems without necessarily going around and playing around this. So for me, I think William is actually just sending us on a fool's errand.
Wild goose chase.
Because the things he suggests sound good to us. But technically, when you sit down, you realize that there are important things and urgent things that he can do now.
Let me tell you, I in my experience working with politicians across Africa, I have realized one thing. There are very few times where their political interests and the national interests coincide and we agree. Let me tell you, the statement given by the president was a political statement. And I'll tell you why it's a political statement. Where he sits, creating an office for the official opposition will keep Raila and Martha busy for a while, allowing him to do his agenda. That's number one. Number two, creating a constitutional moment is also a very good thing in terms of keeping the country busy so that we don't focus on bread and butter issues. True. However, what is being proposed, especially in the matters of one minister's CSS going to speak in parliament, especially on the matter of legitimizing opposition and giving it voice, we absolutely agree. Is it a big technical challenge to get it done? Can parliament even get it done? We're not sure. But the truth of the matter is, and I told Kenyans this before, when a politician's desires coincide with yours, be selfish, take it and run. The leadership that is supposed to be offered ETC will not matter when those things are constitutional. All right? So this for me is my view. Kenyans have an opportunity to grab something for themselves. As politicians do this for their own political efficacy now. Our needs and desires have coincided for a small window of opportunity. Take advantage. Once we take advantage, that thing is codified not just for the William Ruto presidency, but for presidencies moving forward. That is very critical. Now, the issues that Arnold is raising are legitimate. And you have to look at the process. True. But let me tell you what my crystal ball tells me. I bet Azimio is likely to start a popular initiative. Okay?
What do you mean by a popular initiative?
I mean a non-parliamentary route
towards constitutional amendment.
Why? Because Azimio is sitting at the position now where they are not the head of state starting a constitutional referendum. And they will have support of the masses and the government because the president has already alluded to his desire to have those changes. So let me tell you, as far as this thing is concerned, the stars will align on 80% of those issues. And me, I'm telling Kenyans, the window is there, let's grab it.
But we don't want constitutional amendment.
Why?
Do Kenyans want them?
We are Linda Katiba.
Let me tell you something.
If the
we
president,
in the Linda Katiba, including Martha Karua, we do not want.
I've been anti this Linda Katiba nonsense for a long time. Constitutional amendments are part of our constitution.
That's fine, but not now.
Why not now?
So you implement what you have first. Like Arnold is saying, if it's about Parliament performing the job of the role of Parliament, then we do not have to worry about who is the leader and where the leader is.
You know the president.
You cannot say that you're not going to buy a fridge because your children have not exhausted watching TV. That's the logic. Listen, constitutions by and large are never going to be 100% implemented. Look. Let me give you an example. The United States passed a constitutional amendment many years ago giving equal rights and freeing slaves, correct? But in the United States today, there are a number of states where slave labor for as long as you are a criminal is still enforced. How many hundreds of years later? So let's be clear. Constitutions are never going to be 100% implemented.
That is okay.
So saying that because we've not implemented A, we cannot do B is a defeatist argument.
We are completely in agreement. But the argument here you're pushing is that we need to amend the Constitution because it's not working.
No, this is the point. The Constitution we have
you
at the
cannot
moment,
say that what you haven't tried is not working and you haven't tried it. Try it.
But we've had 10 years of experimenting with this Constitution.
Yeah, but not
but
on
we
these
do
areas.
not have the same Constitution we had in 2010.
Yes.
This Constitution is not exactly what we had in 2010.
True.
Because amending a Constitution is not just by a referendum or the
ticking, dotting the T's.
We've done precedences,
the
we've set patterns. This Constitution is not the same as what we gave ourselves because the Supreme Court has made some rulings. We've taken up a number of things. So the whole point is this. Why I do not agree with William largely on the things he's actually proposing is that I think it is a statement made out of intelligence. Being that, of course, that we know that probably in the back end, like he said, Azmi is thinking about kickstarting this particular process. And it will actually have support. When I was the chairperson of the TNA Youth League, I was the first person of the TNA Youth League. I remember somebody I'll not mention, a very senior person then.
Whom you will not mention?
Yes.
Okay.
Told us that
if
the people, on the day we know that the people want the Constitution to be changed, we will go in front of that choir and conduct it. We will lead it. So I think the president is just preempting a process that is coming.
Yeah,
which is fair as a
policy.
That's your
view.
He is preempting it. As in, if you worked in the back end, is that people, what do people want? If this is what the people want,
give it to them.
You will give it to them, even if it is poison. So, if the president really wants proper and vigorous oversight, can I tell you what he needs to do? Just abide by the Supreme Court ruling on CDF. I can tell you, Parliament will turn into an animal that will scrutinize everything.
Every single thing that comes out, which is what you're asking them to do in the first place.
But he's telling us that we need to create the leader of official opposition, a guy we can manage.
Yeah.
There are mechanics to manage that guy. And then we are giving Parliament, this is a bigger dog. This is a bigger animal.
And then take
now, we are giving them CDF. We want to ensure that this one is stemmed. But we are giving it to a person with a few people. You're calling it legitimizing it.
Yeah.
And you know that you can manage them. You guys are Africans. So if the president is really interested in oversight.
Not just Africans, Kenyans.
So if the president really, you realize when they realized that CDF was delaying, you realize they had really become wild, right?
No, this let's be clear. Even the CDF proposal in that document is a method of managing Parliament, and I'll tell you why. You see, for as long as you hold the exchequer, right? If you want to frustrate Parliament, you delay disbursement of CDF.
Yep.
Then parliamentarians will come and queue and do whatever you want.
Yep.
So all this is control. All I am saying, so that we are very clear, there are very few times when politicians want the same thing as you. You may not want it for the same reasons. If you want to scrutinize the reasons of that letter, it is all political. But is it good for this country to have those conversations to move forward as a country? Yes. So for me, it's very clear, and I know we're about to give parting shots. It's very clear. For once, the president and Raila and most of this country want the same thing.
Most of the country.
No, let me explain to you why. Let me explain to you why. If you went to the people who voted for Azimio and you ask them, do you want
BBI?
No. Do you want Raila Odinga to sit in parliament oversighting government?
They'll tell you yes.
They'll be ululating to say yes. If you ask government, the people in government, that do you want to keep Raila busy doing other things as official opposition? They'll tell you yes. It will manage him, yes. So here's the thing. At the end of the day, both sides want the same thing. They want to control Raila, and Raila will want a place where he's able to exercise the political influence he has. So trust you me, I can predict for you, there is no reason either side will say no. So they'll say yes. Because also they know they themselves might lose an election tomorrow. So they also need a soft landing.
They will say yes to it.
Yes. My final thing on CDF, let's be very clear. If we give Parliament CDF, then we kill oversight in this country. But unfortunately, now back to my point about leader of opposition. Every time Raila Odinga is quiet when something is going wrong in this country, we always assume opposition is one person. That's the problem. In this country, opposition is personified. It is not institutionalized. And that is another problem we have to solve.
All right. Parting shots, 30 seconds.
You personalize state, you will lose it. The day Michuki was the Minister for Transport, when he left, a man came in and said he also runs a matatu. Can we make institutions that work? Because if we are going to change the constitution with Raila in mind, with William Ruto thinking that if he loses, he might actually want to come back, and that he wants to govern without disturbance, and therefore he wants to keep Raila Odinga busy, we lose it. We need to actually take the painful decision. Take CDF to where it's supposed to be. Give it to governor if it's a must. It was a pilot project. It is not supposed to survive. There was parliament before CDF. There should be parliament
without
after CDF.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us.